And there we are. And here we go. We are live, 5 by 5, and we're going to just kind of start out with a little monologuing tonight. I did have a last minute attempt at having some guests, um, and we'll probably have Josie on a little later when when she gets ready and set. But the until then, it's just me and all of the good stuff. So we're going to talk about what are we going to talk about tonight? So um, I had to actually, I was going to talk to the guest about um, some feminism stuff, but we'll hold off on that for now. At the end of the day, I think that we all know my stance on feminism. We all know how I feel about the people that are doing feminism, and it's not that I'm an angry white guy or something. It's basically that I just don't really see the need for um, to I don't know really to I just really don't know that I feel the need to really go into it without someone else to talk to it about. It's just the way it is. My computer is beeping at me, so let's um, see what's going on. Got a lot going on. Looks like out there in the big bad world. So so at the end of the day, I think that we're gonna move forward with this podcast the way it is, and it and so you know for me. Um, I mean, I don't even know how to put this, guys. I have a lot of fun with this, and I can monologue and I can talk about all kinds of things, and you know, we can talk about my career in racing. We can talk about life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and all of those assorted things. And I kind of feel like we're probably going to talk about a lot of that this afternoon, this evening, wherever you are, whatever the time is. I know that we've got people. Really from all over that come in and talk, and so I'm super excited to hear about all of it as life goes on. But tonight we're going to start off talking about um, flying. That's what we're going to talk about. So some of you guys know that I do fly. I'm pretty close to getting my private pilot's license, and it's an interesting thing for me because I had I had the chance when I was in college to go and be part of a shop that did aircraft upholstery at the local airport, and it was really cool because I spent a lot of time there, and I got to know the instructor pilots. And back then, at the um, you basically had these really old curmudgeons. I may have talked about this before. You just had these really old curmudgeons, and they really didn't want to do anything but be flight instructors. And they just didn't like to do much besides that. They always wanted to be up flying, and so I was able to trade favors, odd jobs for flying lessons, and I got about 20 hours in my logbook, and then I moved forward with my life. I had to go get a real job. I got out of college. I had to make some career choices, which short term, we'll talk about that in a second. Short term were not that great, and the at the end of the day, I just kind of I didn't give up on flying. I just didn't have time for flying. And so what ended up happening is life went on for 30 odd years, and now I've got back into flying. And the thing about flying is that it takes practice. You've got to be able to do it over and over and over again, and um, and really maintain a level of proficiency. And for most people, that it's very hard to do that. It's really really hard to, um, because it costs money to go flying. It costs money to um, the I mean, it costs money to do anything really, I guess, but it really costs money to go flying. I mean, it's, you got to rent a plane or you got to own a plane, and it's like owning a car times 10. Everything is more complex. Everything is bad and, or not bad, but, everything costs money and it just doesn't get any better. So the, um, one of the things about that is that it just, I didn't get back into it until after I retired. And then I went through it. I had a bad experience at a flight school. I made a whole video about that, and you guys can watch that on my other channel if you really want to. And it's interesting, but I don't know that it's that interesting. Um, so I had, pardon me, I just killed the mic there, and I had I had to give up last year. I had to give up about a year ago. I didn't really give up. I had to postpone. I just didn't have the time. I had a lot of projects going on, and there are only so many hours in the day, even for a retired guy. You can't just, um, you can't just do whatever you want whenever you want. I mean, I know it seems like that, but you really can't do it that way. And so, I just wasn't really able um, to spend the kind of time that I wanted to. Um, I see I'm getting some comments. Uh, yeah, I'm okay, dude. So, we had, I got everybody, do airplanes. Got a lot of comments going on. Sorry, you guys are distracting me. Stop it. Um, at the end of the day, um, I had to quit. I didn't have to quit. I had to postpone about a year ago. I got back into it. I'm just now getting back into it. And yesterday, I actually had a really great flight in a plane called Karen. The and the I'm going to get Josie in here in just a second. And so, I mean, that's funny, right? Because everybody hates Karens now. And so we had, um, but I got the flying Karen, and Karen actually was, is a great plane, man. The thing is fast, and it had a lot of wind yesterday, and wind is exciting. Wind's exciting when you're flying. You um, can't really predict everything that the plane's going to do, and it's um, it's really uh, it's really a good time. I had a lot of fun. We one of the maneuvers that we did yesterday was, we were almost back to the home airfield. I'd done a bunch of touch and goes at a remote airfield that's not as busy as the home airfield. We get back, or we're almost back, and we're probably about 2 miles out, maybe a mile and a half, something like that. And the instructor reaches over and says, "Well, do you think you can make the field from here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I think so." So he pulled a power to zero, right, to idle, pulled the power to idle, and had me glide in. Now that's actually a commercial maneuver to do that, and I'm not going for my commercial ticket, my commercial license. I'm just going for a private license. But being able to do it and having the instructor have the confidence in me to pull off that maneuver was really cool. I mean, you just, it's hard to explain how cool that is, and it was a great time yesterday, man. It was really good, and I think that there's a lot of people out there that really doubt themselves, and and I really don't. I feel like that I have I have a fair amount of confidence. I used to say that I have supreme self confidence, and that comes off kind of like a braggart or kind of a like I'm a um, I don't know what you would call it. Like I'm a egotistical, I guess, maybe. I don't know. Whatever it is, it comes off wrong to a lot of people. And so I tend not to, I tend not to do that very much. Um, the, I tend to try kind of slow down, right? I don't want everyone to think that I'm a jerk, and I certainly don't want them to think that I am full of overly prideful. So, I thought Josie was going to jump in. I guess maybe she's waiting for something. I don't know. And we'll see. We'll get some more people in here. That'd be great. But yeah, so yesterday flying around in Karen was great. I had some did some really good touch and goes. You might hear my mother-in-law in the background. Just basically has no idea how loud she is. So that's fun and exciting. Um, she's eating. She probably is. That's no lie. That's funny. Anyway, so let's talk about why this is all important, right? Like the idea of self confidence and pride, and and knowing your limits as well. Knowing when you're being a jackass. Because I don't think a lot of people really know when they're being a jackass. I think a lot of people when they're being, pardon me, Mike. I feel like I need Brian here to say, Mike, talk into the mic. Um, So one of the interesting things I find is that there's an overwhelming lack of actual self confidence out there in today's youth, which to me is basically anybody under 30. I mean, it just is. So it's very interesting because even when you're highly trained to be highly trained, um, the at the end of the day, it's these people are just really they just don't have the self confidence to get anything done. They really don't understand. It's they will. Uh, there's no way to really. I don't know how to explain it, guys. I mean, you got to know you can do it. You have to feel it inside. Even if you think you might fail, you got to go try and do it. Right? Faith only gets you so far. At some point, you have to do it. I had this in the title tonight. I was expecting to have a couple of guests, and I had one. And I'll see how we're doing. We'll Jesse's out. Josie's out there working hard for us, trying to get us some guests. So when she does get here, give her a big round of applause and say nice things, so that she knows we care. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, you've got to have that supreme confidence. When I was racing, um, I really believed that I was the best at what I did. I really 100% believed that I was going to win every single race I entered. If I didn't, I wouldn't have shown up. I would never have shown up running for third place. I just wouldn't do it. And you just have to have this idea in your head that no matter what happens, you are number one and you're going to win. Even if you're not going, even if the odds are you're not going to win, why show up if you're competing for second place? Why bother, right? And unfortunately, a lot of people have taken that attitude too far. They really talk about it now. This defeatist attitude that the younger crowd has, the idea among many that so I fiddle with my hands a lot. So um, the you'll see me waving things around because I talk with my hands and without something in them, it looks weird. So I talk with things in my hand, and I point. Just way I am. So anyway, where's all the people, man? I'm never going to make fun of Brian talking about flakes again, ever, because I mean, it was last minute on my part. I really was like, I was just ready to sit here and do a monologue, and and eventually, I assumed that I didn't assume I had kind of hoped that Josie would join in, and that was going to be it. And um, so I don't have one of those right now. Look, I don't have those, and I mean I do, but they're none where you can see them. At least all of them. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Um, yeah, so I had assumed that I had assumed that it would, even last minute we could get someone just to come on and talk for half an hour about feminism or something, um, something like that. And um, unfortunately, maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. I've sent out the links for people to join us. They either do or they don't. I don't really care. We'll just sit here and talk and have a great time. So that's probably enough about flying, right? You guys are tired of that. It's kind of boring if you're not doing it. And we all know about self confidence. We all know about that. But faith only gets you so far. And the whole reason behind that is at some point you just have to go start doing stuff. You can't just sit around and talk about it. You can't believe that you can do it. You can't in your mind rehearse it a million times. At some point, whether you are a frontline special forces high speed, low drag, super cool dude, or you are the guy walking dogs, and getting paid by the hour. Um, um, stand by, guys. Stand by. I've got to type, and I can't do four things at once. So, anyway, yeah. Anyway, all right. So the whole idea behind faith only gets you so far is at some point you got to go do stuff, right? And a lot of us don't do that in life. A lot of us will sit and wait. We wait and we wait and we wait, or we come up with excuse after excuse after excuse. And I used to see this all the time because I'd have guys that would literally tell me, I want to come race a car. I want to come drive something. I want to do whatever, right? And because I do a lot of cool stuff, right? Like, I'd have somebody, hey, I want to go out on the boat with you one day. Okay, yeah, let's go out on a boat. Ask them four times, they never have time to show up. At some point, just got to go do it, guys. You got to go do it. Whether it's playing basketball or whatever. You know, go. Get off your butt. Go do stuff. You know, and I think the internet's made it really bad. Even I find myself sometimes when I should be out, which I have pretty good discipline about it, but even sometimes I'll find myself when I should be outside doing something, or worse, if I'm inside and I'm supposed to be like, I have some paperwork to do, or I have something that needs to get done on the computer. I'll be like hanging out on the Discord, or I'll be watching a news article, or I'll get sucked into an hour and a half of YouTube videos, not about cats or anything weird like that, but just random YouTube stuff that you know, probably ought not get sucked into for an hour and a half. Um, Love Chucky 2009 saying there's nothing to it but to do it. That's not his saying. We used to say that a long time ago. Let me tell you, it's right. Um, uh, so at the end of the day, you got to get in there. You got to get dirty, guys. You got to. It's the same thing when you're dating too, right? So you hear people all the time talk about how they never get dates, but they're also the same dudes that never go up and ask someone for their phone number, or just ask them, hey, can you got 5 minutes? You want to grab a cup of coffee and just chat for a second? They're the same dudes that just can't do that. When I was in, go back to the race team stuff. When I was in, we were in Canada one year, and we needed a flag girl for the race. We were in Canadian. we're at a restaurant called the Keg. It's a really good place. It's you know, not bad steakhouse kind of deal. And we needed a flag girl for the race, and um, we ended up there were a couple of different options available, but the obvious one is just have one of the youth that worked for me go and holy crap, I can see. Um, have the youth that work for me go in and talk to some pretty girl and have her come to the race, get her free tickets, and she could bring her and her girlfriend or her boyfriend or whatever, and come watch the race. And all she had to do was hold a flag for a little while, right? And we had there were some shirts and stuff for the series had them wear and all that. But it really wasn't that big a deal to get done. And I waited for we were at this restaurant for like an hour, because we got a bunch of people, an hour, and I'm like, go ask the hostess to be the flag girl. Go ask that hostess. She seems nice, and she seems like she would do it, right? She seems like she would find that to be a good time. And two dudes wouldn't even they wouldn't even get out of their chair to go walk over and talk to her about it, right? So at one point she came over for something, probably the bill, I don't know. And I said, okay, here's your chance. Make it happen. Once again, didn't do anything. Nothing. What? Why? Anyway, so at the end, so I ended up doing it. I was like, hey, we're in town racing. We need we need a flag girl. We need someone that, can stand and hold a flag and look cute for 20 minutes total. And maybe not even it's really like 10 minutes total, but for like 20 minutes. And she said, "Yeah, great. No problem. I'll do it." And she did. She showed up the next day. I've got, she and then the two dudes that wouldn't even talk to her, not even a little bit. They were like trying to cut each other's time, trying to get a date with this girl that lives in Canada. Seriously? So sad. And I bet it hasn't gotten any better. My guess is it's probably worse. So that's the dating portion of the podcast. I hope I did well. We unfortunately don't have any 304s on this program for some reason, and it is what it is. So let's see what else. Where else can we go? What else can we talk about? We can't talk about. I mean, really, nothing's extra happened. It's gotten a lot worse. I think that you're right about that. I do think that it's gotten worse. I do think that um, both men and women have forgotten how to talk to each other. And worse, so I actually could forgive people back in the day not knowing how to talk to each other, right? Because even when I grew up, of course, I went to a co-ed school, so that I saw girls at school. They didn't really talk to them at school. We were pretty segregated. We had our gym teacher, they had their gym teacher, same gym class, just split. You know, and then I remember that the only time that we really outside of class that we really had any opportunity to talk to girls was at church, and not even in regular church, because you would just see them there with their parents, so you're not going to talk to them. But in at church socials or at church functions or things like that, and in various dances, and that was always a something um, that was really cool, and um, so you didn't actually have to know a lot about how to talk to somebody. You were just put in a situation where you could talk, and you could. Now they don't even do that. Like it's crazy. Believe it or not, I used to go square dancing when I was younger, like much younger. So the Yeah, so that's it's like we were talking about last time. There's no one passing out on the old ways to new generations. That's true. I believe that the way forward lies on people rediscovering it, but most aren't self starters. Right. Faith only gets you so far. Sometimes you got to go do it. You and Jess, I'm looking at you here. It only gets you so far. At some point, you got to go do it. Right. You can talk about it. You can dream about it. You can make plans, but at some point, you have to take that step outside your front door and go do it. And sometimes that's hard. That's really, really hard. Um, so, the it looks like we're going to have somebody just coming in on audio only. We'll see how that comes in and works out. But yes, I hope you feel targeted by this, by the entire title and everything. Faith only gets you so far, Jess. You've got to actually go do stuff, and you're just an easy target. I think there's like probably half of the world right now. Right. I don't have that. I don't have a stream deck. I would literally be pushing the button like mad if I had a stream deck, but I don't have one. So yeah, just do it. Especially you, Jess. I'm looking at you, looking directly at you. All right, so we've got somebody in on mic. They're muted right now for whatever reason. They can't. They're all right. They're unmuted now. No.
I'm not asking for Wi-Fi. I'm looking for my headphones case. You can't find it.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I was telling my son no.
Did you read it?
So I'm going to rodeo tomorrow night. Jess, I hope you are the rodeo tomorrow night. I really hate saying that. It seems really poor choice of words, but I kind of hope you get ridden hard and put away wet. I'm just saying. Um, maybe not completely wet, just kind of. Okay, like that. At least try. Okay, you're really bad at this now. You've got to get better. Oh, my killer giraffe person. I may have scared them off with my tirade there. They don't know the backstory. I'm sorry. Um, Are you there, killer giraffe? One. I don't know that I can hear that audio. Why am I not getting audio today? I don't know what I'm doing here. Oh, I know what I have to do. There we go. Can you hear me
Yep.
now? Gotcha.
I can hear you. Yes.
Good, good. What do we got going on today? Killer Giraffe 1. That's new. That's different.
I don't know. I was asked to come debate you on gender,
Debate
relationships,
me.
whatever. Or
Not much
discuss.
of
I
the,
don't know. I'm a progressive.
yeah, we
I'm
can
on the
discuss it.
left.
I'm not much of a debater.
Okay.
My personal opinion is if I want to debate, if I want to watch a debate, I know where all the college channels are, so I can just watch, semi-pros. Not me, because I'm not one.
Okay.
Sure,
Well, I
man.
am. So,
Yeah, good.
let me know if you want to talk about something.
Yeah, go ahead, man. Lead off. Whatever. I don't know what Josie told you. I just rattle on, man. I do a lot of
Um,
monologuing. So, um, but and actually, I was really kind of hoping that we could get a. Do you happen to be a feminist by chance?
yeah.
Do you consider yourself feminist? Okay, good, good, good. I
Yep.
like that. Okay, all right. How do you feel that women are currently disenfranchised and or disadvantaged in, say, the workplace or the dating environment? Your choice. No pressure.
Dating environment, they're not. Well, largely, it's in a different way than where men are. So obviously, they have much more options. They can
They're
swipe on
different. I
whoever,
mean,
and
men and women are different. So
well, that's again not what I meant. Obviously, they're
gotcha.
biologically different.
Okay.
I will
Yeah,
not argue with
gotcha.
you. Um,
Right.
Different in that the disadvantages they have are much different. So women, for example, when they go on dates, have a much higher likelihood to have violence against them or to be feeling unsafe or any of those types of things. They're more likely to have, sexual harassment in the DMs or guys sending them unsolicited pictures or like any of those things. Obviously, they can get more matches. That's like obviously statistically true.
Sure.
But the types of challenges they face are different than the types of challenges that men face in dating.
Okay. So those are very good points. I like those. I like those points. Josie, you can jump in too. I don't know why you're in the crowd. I do like that you let off with that. That's good. I like it. So I would counter that by saying that you do understand that there's more percentage wise. There's more physical violence against women in lesbian relationships than there are in hetero relationships, percentage wise. Now, obviously, you're talking about a massive pool of hetero and a much smaller pool of lesbian relationships. I'm just saying, percentage wise, the women that report being victimized and
Yeah,
abused.
there's confounding variables there, which are that people in
Right.
lesbian relationships are more likely to report abuse because they are generally lesbian people, tend to be more progressive socially if they are outwardly lesbian and in a relationship, meaning they're more likely to
Mhm.
report
Sure.
violence in a relationship, unlike
Hmm.
people in more traditional marriages who are less likely to report that they are going through an abusive relationship. Even if it's true though that it happens more frequently, which I don't know if that's actually been proven. It doesn't really
So
prove
that
anything like
just
at all.
yeah, I don't want to argue statistics, but
Sure.
just for your information, right? Because I think information matters. Just so
I agree.
I'm not picking that number out of the air or anything. That's actually from a study done about marriages and the reasons given for divorce. The
Cool.
reasons
You want
given
to
for
link? Can you link
so
that so I can read it with you?
yeah, so that's I'm not saying that in general that they're just coming forward and in like domestic violence cases or something like that
Mm,
randomly. I'm saying that when they are giving a reason for divorce, um, it's it's abuse. Now,
gotcha.
I kind of I kind of feel like that men are much less likely to counter or to admit to emotional abuse as a woman, even a butch woman would be. Um, so
That's probably true. Yeah.
Okay, so that's
Um,
where that's where I think that number gets skewed because I don't think that there's any female alive right now that is not perfectly willing to accuse a man of violence against her. Not currently. Now, maybe 30 years ago you could say that was true.
okay, I heavily disagree with that, but I want to
Okay,
make one point quickly
sure.
on your
Yeah,
point
okay.
about men not being willing to report emotional abuse. I
Mhm.
think that is exactly one of the problems that feminism attempts to solve. I think your view of feminism is probably not the same
Well,
definition of what my view of feminism is.
we should have started there actually. We should have started
Sure.
there because there's all kinds of different viewpoints on feminism. Just so you know, I am a constitutional conservative, right? I don't consider myself particularly Republican, although that's where I tend to agree with, and I don't consider myself a libertarian because I don't smoke pot. Um,
I saw the
and
background. I could have assumed that. Yeah.
Right, okay, good, good. Oh yeah, right, yeah, good. So I'm a constitutional conservative. As far socially, I don't know that I have any specific leaning other than more or less conservative. And as far as feminism, I think feminism's done more damage to men and women as a whole than any other discipline, if we want to call it that, than anything that we else that's been tried in the U.S. I mean, we
Can you
can
list
even
like 3 to 5 ways that men have been harmed by feminism, just so I can get what your actual arguments are?
well. So the divorce courts are rigged completely against men. Men in a I don't remember the exact numbers, so I'm not going to give any stats here, okay? Because I don't like to say something's 98% and you come
Sure.
back with no, it's actually 88%. I don't feel like doing that, and I find that very disingenuous anyway. So overwhelmingly, I think that we can agree that men have an uphill battle regarding their children in custody battles. even when the mom is proven to be unfit. Also, in most divorces, the female, um, the woman, even when there's nothing, no kids, she's going to really cash a check, and a man is going to walk away. And I think that and that's I'm kind of cherry picking that, and I feel like you would know that. I'm
Yep.
kind of cherry picking that one. Men also, in the employment currently, men are at a supreme disadvantage, depending on the job, and in office jobs especially. Women are giving exceedingly preferential treatment over men, and it's almost impossible currently to fire fire a woman in a job. Whereas a man, it's slightly easy. I mean, it is, it's arguably that everything's being applied equally, but I don't necessarily agree that that's true. Based on personal experience, nothing else. Um, and I think that we should be able to agree that overwhelmingly, men suffer emotional stress and damage based on the actions of their partner more than women do. Women claim that, but the reality is they're very often put up to that by other women, where men suffer in silence. And um, as I've already noted, men won't really say anything about physical or emotional abuse from their wives, whereas um, um, if a man suffers years and years of emotional abuse from his wife, and he finally breaks one day and has one episode where he yells at her, she will use that and take everything he owns. And so I don't think that there's any disadvantage to being a woman in a relationship these days at all. Matter of fact, I think you're overwhelmingly, they hold all the cards. If a woman calls the police right now today and says, my boyfriend hit me, that dude's going to jail 100%. If a woman says he didn't pay his child support, that dude goes to jail 100%. No woman goes to jail for not paying child support or alimony, but it's the only law. I mean, I don't know that you know this. It's the only law still on the books where a financial debt is considered a crime, and you can go to jail for it. It's the only one left. There's no that we've gotten rid of all of it. Or not indentured servitude, but debtors' prisons, all of that sort of thing. Those all went away. They're all gone except for child support owed by men. So,
Cool. Okay.
and I'm sorry,
So
I kind of went off. I kind of went down that. You asked me for more than one thing, and I wanted
no,
to make sure that I gave you more than one thing.
I appreciate that. And I was taking notes, so I don't need you to repeat them over and over, for the sake of conversation.
Sure.
Based on, I think, your first and third points, which were the divorce courts and the emotional damage in relationships, I think you would be the prime person to actually be a feminist instead of an anti-feminist, or however you would describe yourself. I think feminism helps solve both of these things. Feminism is not just women get all the advantage and men go fuck themselves. It is attempting to reach parity between the sexes on all of these things. So yeah, I think a lot of the time, some of the more high profile things get pushed over some of these other things. But if the end goal of feminism is to be, gender roles do not have to be so stringent where everyone necessarily must follow exactly what a man should do and exactly what a woman should do, and men are allowed to be emotional and women are able to be abusive. Like, these are the types of things that traditional gender roles say can't really happen, where the man is always going to be, in traditional gender roles, the man's always going to be the leader of the household, and it's impossible for the leader of the household to be the one that's getting abused because they're the one that leads the household, right? But it's also, it's possible for the man to be the caretaker too, to have that emotional role in a family where they are the ones that are actually better to take care of the child, for example, versus the mother. So I think both of these, if you degrade the gender roles over time to say men can be emotional caretakers and women can be like the breadwinners of the family, and make it so both can be both things. Both of these problems are likely to fade away over time. The problem is, right now, I think both of these problems exist because we have these expectations, like the court system, for example, that we expect women to be better caretakers and more emotionally appealing to their children, for example, because that's what the gender roles say that they would be. Like they are nurturing, they're caring, all of these things that we typically associate with women over men. I don't think that's a good thing. I think over time, if we can change that to say men can be just as caring and nurturing and responsible, taking care of children as women can be, then I think that would change over time. I think what you're seeing is a symptom of the current problem instead of something that feminism started. I think this has been a problem long before feminism made it a problem.
I don't think that any feminist would say what you just said. I think that you're a member of the patriarchy, and let me explain why. Men actually do a better job of raising children than women do, and historically, that's always been the man's job. The women would raise them until they were old enough to go out with the men, but in that case, the old men were actually the ones teaching the children. Women didn't become teachers until the mid 1800s. They just didn't. They were never that was never their role in society. It was
Do you
the
know
old
why?
men. Yes, I do know why. Because
Okay,
women
tell
are
me why.
not as women have never been seen as very nurturing. They've been seen as um, mothers, and they ran households. And I
So,
think that
so what
I
is a
think that
mother if not nurturing?
well, I
What
mean,
does that mean?
well, but no. That's that you can't conflate the two. You're conflating the two
I'm
and
not. I'm
saying that
asking you what a
because
mother
this
is if
person
not
is
nurturing.
you're saying that because this person gives birth, they can be nurturing. That has one thing has nothing to do with the other. And
Okay, so
just
what does
like
motherhood mean outside of
motherhood means
nurturing?
birthing a child, that has nothing to do with being.
I'm not talking about
Um,
the action. I'm talking about the
okay,
characteristics of what you would associate with a mother, like
I
the
associate a
personality
mother
traits.
with
What would
birthing
you
a child.
associate?
I do not. I do not, and I do not associate the idea that a mother is the one that raises a child. Um,
So,
in the
so this is
wild,
not.
even in animals, we see that the males raise the children.
So this is not how. This is not how
You
we
didn't. You didn't know.
define
This isn't how
words.
this that you.
This is
This
not how
isn't
we
not
define
going the way
words
you
in
thought it
our
was going to
world,
go.
right? No,
Okay.
this is exactly how I thought it was going to go. It's
Okay.
exactly as unreasonable
Really?
as I thought it'd
Okay.
be. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So this is not how we define words and think of associations between things. We don't.
No,
If you hear
that's the
someone's
way that
hold on,
that's the way
nope, not
people
done.
have defined
I
them. That's
didn't
not the way
finish.
I define them.
Okay, that's great. I didn't finish.
Okay.
So when you hear someone's a mother, that immediately brings up associations to normal people, most people. That isn't just this person gave birth, because
Mm-hmm.
obviously any child has a mother. Like
Mm-hmm.
obviously biologically they must have a mother. The
Mm-hmm.
reason we use the word mother instead of like a birthing person or like someone who gave birth or those terms that just describe the action is because we attach characteristics to that description. We
Mm-hmm.
If we're talking about someone is a mother, the characteristics we tend to attach to that is like that person tends to be more caring or is taking care of the child or those types of things. That's why we can say someone is a bad mother, for example. That doesn't mean that they
Again,
gave
you're
birth badly.
conflating.
It just means that they are bad at mothering.
Right. I understood all of that the minute you said it. However, you're still conflating one thing with another that doesn't exist anywhere else in nature except with humans. Humans have this idea of what a mother is
Why
when
does that
we
matter? Why does that matter at all? If other people in
because
nature, like
because
humans are
you're
exceptional of any
attributing
other
you're
animal, this
because you're
doesn't matter.
attributing things to something that doesn't necessarily belong. And it's culturally become that way. And you can say that culturally women have fulfilled this nurturing role. I would say that most of the time I think that's okay. But the reality is that men historically have and factually do a better job of raising children than women do. Women children that are raised in single parent fatherless households fail in life more than raised by single parent male households. Now, how do you explain that if you want to talk about nurturing? The reason that is because men have an ability to teach and lead, and women typically are more of a follower and have and they're right. You're right. They do give care. When you are hurt, you go to your mother. When you want to learn something, you go to your father. And that is not always a trend. And I'm being a little bit blockish here. I mean, that's not. I'm not.
Disingenuous. Yeah, I
It's not
agree.
quite. It's not quite as
What would
cut and dried as I
explain?
say.
So, okay, two quick things. One, I don't
Sure.
even know that it's true that we don't see this in animals. There probably is examples. I just don't know a lot of them, but I'm
Mhm.
fairly certain that there is what we would consider motherly
Lions.
behavior among animals
Lions.
that we see,
Grid, let him finish.
that we see like the female animal doing what we would consider motherly behavior, nurturing, all of that stuff. That's one. Two, I don't think that even if the stats that you're talking about of people raised by single fathers is like they become more successful, there are so many other factors that play into that, including
Sure.
single mothers often have to sacrifice a lot of their career to become mothers to begin with. And so when you have a situation where someone's a single mother, that often means that they were either born out of wedlock or they had a divorce, or maybe the father died or something like that. And because of our current situation in society where at least of the older generations, the man is seen as the breadwinner and the female is seen as the one that's supposed to like raise the children. Of course, we would expect it to be the case where if single mothers, especially among older generations, are the ones that struggle more to raise kids because they don't have enough money to raise those kids if they sacrifice part of their career to have the kid to begin with. So, of course, this is going to be the association because the man being the breadwinner has enough money to raise that child. They can send them to a good school. They can grow up in a place that's not impoverished. But if the woman had to sacrifice a large portion of their career to have the child and then tries to raise them while like just now getting back into the workforce and basically starting from the bottom, then yeah, of course that child is going to be more disadvantaged. That just makes sense.
I can't buy into much of that. I can't. I'm sorry.
Which parts?
I think it's a fairy tale that people tell themselves, and it sounds good. It sounds good when you say it. Mostly all of it. First of all,
so pick
we
a
all
specific
know.
part and we can talk about it.
Hold on. I'll let you go.
I'm waiting for you to pick a specific part and we can talk about that.
We're gonna. So first of all, everybody knows the female lions, all female cats actually, are the hunters. The males raise the pride. That's because men do a better job of it, and we're lions. I guess. I don't know. Maybe. I'm just using that. That's an easy one for me to pick, and I can't believe that you didn't know that, and you didn't go right to it and disqualify it because I would have.
I don't really care.
I got you. I know that you don't care. I understand that you don't.
The point wasn't that the lion's point. I think you gave that example. My example was, or I guess my claim was, that there are probably other examples of animals where the female animal is the motherly figure. You gave the example of lions. I didn't agree to it. You just sort of pushed that as an example. So again, if you want to talk about a specific piece of what I said, especially the one about single mothers, happy to talk about that instead of broad brush waving it all away as I don't believe that.
You're using a singular set of circumstances to define all single mothers, which is, as you know, obviously not correct. Single mothers are overwhelmingly given massive amounts of child support. They receive all kinds of benefits from the government. It's a very disingenuous and honestly, I expect more from somebody who takes this position because you're talking. You're trying to make the massive amount of single mothers all in this impoverished deal. With this ideal that you're talking about.
Did I say all?
No, you said that the numbers would be because of they were out of the workforce and they were impoverished. Yep. I don't buy into that because that's not even the average. That's not in the realm of reality. That's not the reality of single mothers.
That is the average situation of single mothers. Yes, absolutely. It's not all of them.
Okay.
There are plenty of single mothers that do really well
Sure.
and raise children really, really well, and they're really wealthy, and they can hire nannies, and they can, they can do all of these things. And there's also instances in your example where the single father raises their kid incredibly horribly, and the child has a really shit life, and the single mother does a better job. So there's going to be exceptions to all of these, right? Like this is not.
But I'm not talking about
some,
exceptions. I'm talking about
right,
as a
I'm
general
talking about
rule.
the average, and
Yes,
the average
about the general
is
Grid,
that
let him finish.
Single mothers are poorer than single fathers. This is the average. And so when they're poorer, you have to look at, well, why might they be poorer? There's a lot of really good explanations for this, because women have to do the physical childbirth, and there's the expectation that the woman raise the child for at least a few months after that child is born. They do the majority of the manual, physical, emotional labor of that child, at least for the short term after that child is born. And that means they have to take career hits to do so. What that means is they will make less money on average. Absolutely.
Great, go ahead.
No, I mean, whoops, sorry. Yeah, you're not gonna sell me on that one. I know far more single moms driving around in Lexuses than I do driving around in Kias. I see far more single moms who, and this is obviously anecdotal, but I don't think the stats that you're giving me are real, and I don't buy into them, and you're not going to convince me of them. Nobody has ever been able to prove any of that. It's
Grid,
just
put your knife away, please.
It's constantly repeated. Yeah, I said I was sorry. It's constantly It's constantly repeated over and over again. Sorry, I play with things in my hands because I talk in my hands.
Yeah, but off camera, please.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you.
And you derailing me. It doesn't matter. The point is that it's still that I believe men are better at raising kids than women are. And I happen to have personal experience because I'm basically raising. As a matter of fact, we chose as a family that I would be the one to raise the kids and not my wife. So,
well, again, if that's the decision,
I'm not.
That's a decision you guys made. I'm
Yeah.
happy for you. Frankly, I don't really care that much. So
I just said I had personal experience. I didn't say that that was the rule.
And that's fine. But when we're talking about what the average is across a country or the world, your personal experience and the anecdotes that you see don't matter. And I hate to break that to you.
But again, I don't find that to be the average. I've never seen anything anywhere that said that the average single mother was below the poverty line, except maybe in California. Now in California, I mean, $100,000 a year is below the poverty line. So it's a low bar.
So both of those things you said are wrong. So one, I never said that they have to be below the poverty line. That wouldn't make sense, right?
Because you just said impoverished. Impoverished would mean below the poverty line.
If the child grew up in an impoverished area, yeah. So that doesn't mean that every single person in that area has to be in poverty, but also the word impoverished doesn't necessarily always
stop
mean
moving goalposts, man. Come on. Don't do that. Don't do that.
So,
you did.
So
you
I think
said
it's
impoverished. You said these people are from impoverished families. They were low income mothers.
They have to grow up in impoverished areas.
One at a time, please. Grid, go ahead.
I'm not. Hey, look, this isn't a debate. This is an argument. I said from the word go, this is not a debate.
That's kind of the same thing. I think it's pretty transparent that you haven't looked into this because it is the case that single mothers are just poorer than single fathers that are raising children. The statistics agree with me.
Poorer. So one makes 150 and another makes 125 grand. You're going to call that poorer?
So neither of these are true. These are way above the average. And the things we were talking about,
I'm being facetious, but again, if one makes 60 and one makes 50, it's the same thing.
No, it's not the same thing. It's actually a really big difference. For example, being able to afford a loan on a house can determine what sort of education your child can get, and like what sort of neighborhood your child can grow up in, which determines their educational outcomes, which determines the rest of their life. So these sorts of differences aren't minute. $10, $20, $30,000 averages are incredibly large in a country. But also, I think what you're talking about single mothers getting lots of government support, I think even you would agree that a single mother in raising their child, and this is a conservative talking point, by the way, the child would be better off having the father and not having all of that government support versus just
Well, I
having all
agree.
of that government support. So
I
if it was
100%
true they're
agree.
getting tons of government support, then it should be good that the father is stepping out if this is true. The thing is, it's not true, is that they don't get a lot of government support. They get some, and they get a decent amount, but it's not enough to account for the career hit that the woman has to take and the fact that there is no longer an additional parent to help
Okay,
that child be successful.
but when we did when we bring that up, can we pick a state in particular, because it's gonna vary by state to state?
Sure.
So can we pick a state or agree on a state?
I mean, I don't think it's that helpful, because then it would just be like the argument would change based on which state you're going to. So like in the South.
Yeah,
Well, no, because the federal. I'm sorry, but the federal budget in terms of handouts varies greatly from state to state. Therefore, California is going to have different benefits from another state, which is, we can't really argue that.
It's a bad argument. Just move on. It's a bad argument. Just move on. Move on to the next thing.
Well, it's
fine.
not about arguing. It's just like, let's make sure we're comparing apples with apples.
I will even give you, like,
you have to break it down by state. It's a bad argument.
I don't think that's the own that you think it is, because
No, I don't. I'm just saying it. If you have to, it's just. I'm not. It's not an own. It's just.
It's not an own. I'm just trying to clarify. That's all.
No. I'm saying you're the one that's making that argument. So you're calling your own argument bad, which is fine. Like, I agree, but we can.
That wasn't an argument.
So the argument that you are getting varying levels of support for single mothers depending on the state. If you have to go to like the most charitable example, which is probably California, to make the point, then it's probably a bad argument.
Oh, I just picked that because of the difference in income. So like here where I'm at, I think median income right now is somewhere between 65 and 70 grand a year. And I could be wrong about it. It could be lower than that. I'm just, I'm not going to bother to look it up.
If you make under 80, it's below the poverty line in California.
When San Francisco, I think the poverty line's 110. When I was there because I had a house there in
I was talking about Orange County.
Oh yeah, I don't know about Orange County. I don't, honestly. I don't. It's not.
Josie, what are you talking about? That is just not true. The number you said, and also the number that the other guy said. These are both wrong. Like I don't know where you guys are pulling these numbers. The poverty line in California is $39,900 a year for a family of 4.
That's for the lowest of lowest income to be eligible. But last time I checked, I don't know. It's last time I checked for the area I lived in.
So there's only one poverty line for each state and also federally. If you are below it, you get a whole lot more benefits than if you're above it. $39,900 for a family of 4 sounds really, really, really hard to live, even in California, especially in California.
Impossible to live in California. Sounds impossible.
It'd probably be pretty impossible, and that's why we have really good benefits. Could be a lot better, but we have decent benefits for people below that poverty line that live in that state because they need to survive. That's sort of why we have those benefits. So this argument that it's like, oh, $100,000 is the poverty line in San Francisco is just not true. It's just not true.
Well, I mean, I think that the talk about a poverty line is, I mean, whatever. If you're living at the poverty line, you have a lot of problems. And anyway, like there's no doubt about it. I mean, I actually, unfortunately, used to interact with some of those some people on that level, and it's very heartrending to watch people that have just kind of given up and they just don't think they can do any better. And unfortunately, that's it is what it is. But
sure,
I still kind of do, not as much anymore. I still kind of, I'm changed a little bit. But
so I looked up the stats for you. Children living with only their mothers in 2021 were more than twice as likely to live in poverty than those living with only their fathers, 35% versus 17.4%. Mm-hmm. Does that just so I think your conclusion would probably be something along the lines of like, men are better caretakers, therefore they make more money and are able to like pull themselves out of poverty or something along those lines. Maybe I'm generalizing your point, but my point would be this is a really, really clear trend in the economy. And even if you just think about it for more than 10 seconds, which is women take a big hit when they give birth because they, one, physically give birth. So they have to take time off of work for months. And two, there's an expectation, even outside of the physical giving birth and the months of taking care of the child afterward, where they are expected to be the caretaker of that child by a majority of people in society. That is what feminism aims to change. Obviously, the physical giving birth aspect isn't going to change, but at least the expectation afterward for months and months afterward that the mother has to be the one to sacrifice her career, at least that can change via feminism. And that's, I think, what would help equalize single mothers being so disenfranchised.
That should change. I'm very interested.
Yeah, so government programs like paid time off, like guaranteed paid time off, not just for mothers.
I mean, most women have that if they're employed.
Not just for mothers, but also for fathers. What that would do is incentivize fathers to also partake in raising the child at the very early stages and not just be solely focused on career. Second, I would say that being more generous with the paid time off, we have very, very low levels of required paid time off. If you're in a high, a very wealthy job, they give you a lot of paid time off because they can afford to. But if you're in a already like middle to lower class career, they're not going to give you as much paid time off as you would need to appropriately raise the child. This is why a lot of people end up just quitting their jobs when they're expecting to have a child rather than trying to negotiate or leaving their child after like 2 weeks within them getting born or something like that. So women are forced to quit because they don't get enough paid time off right now. This damages their career way more than it harms men because there isn't any incentive for men to actually go take care of the child because they don't get that guaranteed paid time off. And women are expected to culturally, societally, whatever, to be the ones that primarily take care of the children. So I think government programs, along with a just sort of a shift in how we think about the roles of men versus women in taking care of children, both of those would be good.
Interesting. Okay. So having actually had kids, 4 months was probably about right, maybe a little less. My wife was ready to go back to work pretty quickly. She kind of wanted to get back to work, but my wife's a high performer, so you can't use her as like the norm or the rule or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And you should. I mean, and honestly, I'm probably the worst person to use as the norm or the rule either. However, it's who I am and an example I have. So I would also disagree that the father needs to be that both parents need to be off during the first 4 months. I think that's actually ridiculous. One or the other, sure, but not both.
So this would still be solved by giving men the opportunity to have that paid leave, right? Because if right now men just don't legally they don't have that.
Right. I mean, again, that's a law against that's a law that works against men whose wives do want to go back to work, and the man has to take off to take care of his kids. Now, I think that's fairly uncommon to even be an issue because generically, I'm going to say something here, and it's automatically a disqualifier. I'm going to say it anyway. If you're married and you can't sort that out, you've got a serious problem, right?
Sort what out? Sorry.
Who stays home?
Gotcha.
After the child is born, right? Like
if
you can't sort that out and you're married, you got serious problems. If you're not married and you're having kids, you've already got serious problems, and you probably need to really seek some help, professional help. But that I don't disagree with 4 months sounds like a long time until you live it, and realistically. Again, my wife was really ready to go back to work very quickly, and that worked out for us. It wouldn't necessarily work out for anyone else, or I don't know that, it wouldn't. I can only go by the example I had, and it worked fine, and it was great, and my kids are doing pretty well. And I definitely don't think the government should do that. That's a problem I have with most of the issues I end up having. Is I don't believe that it's up to the government to fund these things at all. and that's kind of where.
What if they don't fund it and they just say employers must give equal time off, equal
Well, you
paid
can't
time
do
off
that.
for childcare to both men and
Yeah,
women? So why do they
I
do it for
mean,
women and not for men?
they really shouldn't do it at all. I mean, realistically,
Isn't that favoring women? Are you against that? Just favoring one or the over the other?
I'm against favor. Well, honestly, I'm against any favoritism whatsoever.
So you would rather just abolish the requirement for paid time off for childbirth versus giving it to both?
Yeah, because I think that as you know, having been an employer myself, unless you're just a really crappy company, you need happy employees, and happy employees. This isn't the '60s or '70s anymore, where people are stupid and don't know anything. Um, you know, my most of the companies that my wife has worked for have been super awesome about. I mean, there's no, and they've generally gone above any requirement. Like they didn't
Yep.
need the government to tell them that.
And I
However,
already preempted all of this conversation by saying I agree that places that are upper middle class or upper class jobs that pay more will already go above and beyond what the government
sure, okay,
asks them to do because they can afford to.
sure.
What I'm
As a
talking about
small,
is places that pay minimum wage or up to middle class wages. They don't need to do that because there are other people lining up to take those jobs, and you are pretty replaceable. Either it's the training is not that expensive, or
okay,
the
so
skills required are not that
one,
intense.
if you're
Those sorts of
making minimum wage, you're not making 40 grand a year, and you're going to fall into the where you get a government assistance anyway. So that's
so
a bad example. Don't do
sure.
that.
So not sufficient, but also because if it
It's
was
still a
sufficient,
bad example. I mean, look, you can't have it both ways.
it's not a bad example. So if it
Yeah,
was sufficient, they wouldn't be in poverty anymore, and they wouldn't have bad results for their children. The fact is that they still do have negative results for their children
hold on,
because
let
they're
me.
under the poverty line.
So
So
here's where we're going.
clearly, the government support is not helping enough
Yeah,
because
I
they
know.
still have really, really bad outcomes for children, right?
Okay, sure. So here's the thing: there are always going to be poor people. We can't legislate people to not be poor. That's a fallacy right out of the gate. So the first thing we have to say is that the first thing that should be said is that if you're working a minimum wage job and you need the government assistance, that's what you get. Yes, you're not going to be rolling around in a Bentley. You are going to be probably taking the bus, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Now,
I agree. That's okay. But the
so
employer also should be required to give them some paid time off to go raise a child.
and literally most do. McDonald's does, I believe. Basically, everybody that actually pays
Yeah.
minimum wage
Do you know
does.
why?
I don't know why. Actually, I've never looked
Because the
into it.
answer is because the government makes them. That's why. If you remove
You
that
think so?
requirement, yep, absolutely. If you remove that requirement, places like McDonald's, actually, I think there's been like court cases in the past where like they actively try to get rid of mothers because the mothers are they know in hiring, especially if someone's like trying to get pregnant or already has children or whatever, those people are going to be less productive workers because they're going to be out of the workforce for a longer period of time. They're going to be more distracted. They're going to be able to work less hours. So employers already at the minimum wage or even up to the middle class wages already don't like to hire mothers that often. This is why we have sort of anti-discrimination policy already for you can't discriminate against people that have children when hiring. So if you get rid of this policy where you need a minimum amount of paid time off for people that give birth, you're just going to honestly fuck mothers even harder, and they're going to fall really, really far behind
If
everyone
it
else.
already exists, what are you asking for? More?
Absolutely, and to expand it to men too. So men, if it's like an agreement in the relationship, and by the way, this relates to when you're talking about if you don't know who's going to do this before you have a child, you're already screwed. I agree. The problem is that's often not even a very long conversation because men can't take time off. They don't have that paid time off unless you're in a higher wage job, in which case you're probably fine anyway. So you don't even have that option. And so the conversation is just, well, I get this minimum amount of paid time off as the mother. You don't as the father. So it's pretty clear which one of us is going to be the one taking the paid time off.
Okay, but hold on. You're dude, back up. You started this whole argument off with that women wreck their careers
Yep.
getting pregnant. Now you're trying to tell me that, but it's okay. The middle class jobs actually take care of you. It's the lower class jobs that need the help, and they're the ones that get wrecked. But
middle class jobs also don't really. It's the upper middle to upper class
no,
jobs.
I don't know that that's true. But if they're already at the poverty line, they're already wrecked, dude. I mean, come on.
So you want to kick them in the face while they're down to make sure that they never escape poverty?
I believe that if you are I believe that you can't use an argument and for one subset to apply to the entire thing by cherry picking and saying that, well, they lose their career, they lose their earning opportunity because they have this child and they take time out of the workforce. It's a minimum wage job. You could take 6 months off and come back and still be the manager of McDonald's. But
Great. Tell me what I cherry picked.
You literally said that women would have to leave the workforce to have a child. Is that what you said?
Oftentimes, yes, absolutely.
Yes, that's what you said. And you said because of that, they're disadvantaged in their career, right? Yep. That's what you said. A minimum wage job is not a career. Come on, dude. You can't keep doing this. You keep using this one little subset and trying to encompass everybody.
Hold on.
And I'm telling you that that's not the way it is.
So
and
now
you know it's not the way it is. You're being completely, you're literally using talking points to try and illustrate your point of view, but you're doing the same thing that everyone does, and that's you pick that lowest group. I'm talking about globally, like not globally, like because we got Abu Dhabi and places that don't matter, but I mean where this wouldn't even be a conversation to have. But in the United States, you can't use that. You should not successfully be able to use that argument because that's not the reality. The reality is not that a minimum wage person takes 4 months off to take care of their kid and their life is ruined because they lost their career. They've lost their earning potential. If anything, during that 4 months, they're home with their child, or 6 months or a year or whatever it is. During that period of time, they could study, they could learn a new skill and re-enter the workforce at a higher level because they were never able to do that.
Let me know when
you're done. I think I am done. I just don't understand where your argument is.
Okay. So you're the one that's cherry picking because I made it really, really clear that this is the worst case example and not the majority of the examples. So yes, there are people that will be, and I didn't interrupt you, so you're not going to interrupt me. There are people in minimum wage jobs that they're the ones that are going to be most harmed. Absolutely. Because if you lose that job, you're already in a bad position. I agree. If you're at a minimum wage job and you're an adult, you're already in a really, really bad spot. If you lose that job for months and you don't have a long period of paid time off, you're absolutely fucked. Like you are, the government's not going to save you. No one's going to be able to save you because you're just going to be completely broke. However, that's not just true for those people. And I made it clear that people in the middle class also don't have the luxury oftentimes of getting this like really generous paid time off package from their employers. This is for people in the upper middle class and upper class who work in like consulting or like high skill jobs or like whatever, where like the employer can afford to do this because you make a lot of money, or it's high levels of training to replace you. So they're not going to just go fire you if you need to take 2-3 months off. So that's A. So no, I did not cherry pick. I'm saying that in the worst instances, it is, people that are making minimum wage. However, this is also true for people in the middle class as well. So no, didn't cherry pick. I said the worst example is people at the bottom. And now you're cherry picking my argument to say that I only made one portion of that argument when I made the entire argument, and you can't run away from the other part of it. So
no. I'm going to tell you right now that if you're in middle class and if you're in the actual middle class where you have a career,
yep,
you leave the workforce for 4 months, your career is not wrecked. If you're in the trades, you could leave for a year and come back and probably make more money than when you left. If you were not in the trades, if you're the receptionist over here, which I don't know where.
What are you even talking about? You can leave for 4 months and make more money than before you left. What are you?
Yeah, actually, I said in the trades, you could probably leave for a year and come back, and where you were being paid, the salary has gone up, and you would make more money by coming back in at the same level. That's a reality. I understand not
Sure.
everybody understands that about the trades, but that's just the way it is.
So
Now,
I don't
let's say
think
that we're
that's
hold
I don't
on,
think
hold
that's
on,
true. And also the
hold
trades
on,
make less money than people with normal college degrees anyway.
hold
So
on.
this is
Well,
not
first of all, if you're middle class, you probably don't have you shouldn't have a college degree, because if you have a college
not
degree, you should be upper middle class. However,
not true.
that's a separate subject. We get there, but if you're actual middle class, I don't know what you're considering middle class jobs, but I'm talking about the lady that works at a clerk at the real estate office that makes 40 grand a year, or who do I know that makes 40 grand a year? I don't even know anybody that makes 40 grand a year offhand.
That's not middle class, by the way. That'd be lower income.
I make less than that if it helps, one.
You're not helpful at all, Josie.
So
Sorry.
yeah, that'd be lower income in almost every single state in the country. People making 40
I
grand a
really
year.
don't know anybody that has.
Especially if they have
I'm
a
trying to
child.
think right now, because you've got me wondering, because this actually, it's interesting that you're dividing middle class and upper middle class, because I've always just been
Yep.
like middle class. Because let's see, I'm trying to think, because I don't know anybody that has what I would consider an actual middle class job. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to come up with one where if they left, they would lose standing and potential. So I know some accountants, but they wouldn't. They would just come back in at same salary or whatever adjusted for.
If they're self-employed.
Oh no, Mm-mm.
Yes.
no,
Yep.
no. So I actually watched this.
They miss out on
I
promotion.
know someone that this
They miss out
happened
on
to,
raises.
where they went. And accountants actually even when they work for other accountant, like in a this, they don't consider it a private office. It's a firm. Thank you, accounting firm. Even when they're there as a firm, they're not self-employed. They are employees, and they get paid a salary. And if they leave, they pretty much come back right where they left off. And
So
almost always they can just go to another firm. Okay.
So do you think that person will miss out on raises, on bonuses, on promotions?
In 4 months?
Yeah, and for months, yeah.
No.
So
do
you have a
you have a job?
I'm
curious. I'm
yes,
very curious right now.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Do you work in software by chance?
No, I don't.
Okay, good. So if you work a real job, which I'm gonna be honest, I never had an adult job. I never really wanted one, and I was very successful in something that didn't require me to do things like to consider things like this. So I'm an outlier, and I understand that I'm an outlier. So I have to think about what other people would look at, and that's why I didn't ask you that. I did not. I want to be real clear. I didn't ask you if you had a job and what you did as a slight. I was genuinely interested because I need that data point because I don't have it naturally.
Yep. And I would be considered middle class, by the way.
Okay. So, all right. So I know people in my immediate social circle that have left the workforce for extended periods of time for various reasons and come back in without a loss of pay. And I don't think that the 4 months was enough to prevent them from getting the next promotion or the next whatever. Now, they may have missed a promotion cycle if it just happened to coincide, but whatever.
Yep.
But again, that's not life altering. Missing one promotion cycle is not necessarily life altering. Now, in my wife's job, for example, now it's really upper. I mean, it's upper middle class. Just the analysts are upper middle class. I mean, they're probably bordering on high earners, but.
Yeah, if the title is analyst, this is not the type of people I'm talking about.
When they leave, there's no problem at all. They come back. They can come back right in where they left, or they'll just go to another firm and make more money.
I already agree this happens.
So it seems to me that the only place that this argument is successful is in a very singular group, which you're defining as a middle class, that I'm not really sure what they make or whatever. And I'm not sure that it can be proven with any degree of accuracy that they lose status over 4 months of being pregnant. Now, I do know, because I've sat in on some meetings on this, that I have heard people not want to hire people because they had the potential to get pregnant, or which is that you can't do that. I don't know. You just can't do that. That's
why we
against.
have a government step
Yeah,
in, not allow
there's
that.
a bunch of different things that go on there, and even if it's not verbally said, sometimes you can tell.
But often that's hard to prove as well. So
Very hard to prove.
there's
It's
often
very, very hard to prove.
discrimination against women who have children, or you can tell that they're planning to have children if they're like in a family and like want children, or if they've talked about it or whatever. Often those people are not given promotions, are not hired in the first place, or they find other reasons to either not hire them or to fire them based on other factors. So this happens all the time. It's rare that people catch them for doing so, because employers know that they can't just say, well, you were talking about having a child in the break room, so that's the reason you didn't get your promotion this year. Obviously, they're not saying that. They will make up some other excuse that can be justified for not giving them promotion, for not hiring them in the first place.
And some of that could be perception as well. Okay, because for example, my wife works at a very prestigious firm, and she's probably going to end up making partner, and without even, and they don't care. Nobody cares that about family or kid. Matter of fact, I think that they see it as a bonus that she has kids.
Can we from now on stop talking about your wife's job, because that is A, an outlier. B, I already agree with you about all of these things you're talking about, which is that in wealthier jobs and wealthier roles, when you're upper middle class or upper class, they don't care about these things because you're more highly specialized. You make them more money. They can afford to pay you a lot of time off. And of course, they don't give a fuck about if you're a woman or if you want to have children or whatever, if you're like at a high ranking level in that department, because you're very valuable to that firm. So I'm not making any of these arguments about places like Deloitte or like BlackRock or like of course I'm not making these arguments, right? So what I'm talking about is middle class jobs where you are pretty easily replaced. The skills that you have are not so complex that they wouldn't just like hire someone else if you're going to be gone for months at a time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Again, I don't see that as a successful argument, because the fact that somebody could hire somebody else means that somebody else could hire you as soon as you're done being pregnant and you want to go back to work.
Not if there's other competition with you and they just saw that you have a child.
There's always more competition.
And if my option is a 30-year-old dude who's like not in a relationship, or a mother who just had newborns and is just like trying to get back into the workforce, and I'm like, my only decision right now, or the only calculation I have, is I want someone who's going to make me the most money, someone who's going to be willing to dedicate their heart and soul to this job and make me as much money as possible. I'm not choosing the mother who just had newborns for a number of different reasons, right? Like any employer, if they're honest with themselves, would agree with that, because they know that someone who just had newborns is not going to be focused on the job with everything they have, but a single dude who like just got out of college or like whatever will be able to do that. And so, of course, it's the case that mothers who just had children are going to be like discriminated against in the workplace, and make it harder to get jobs, make it harder to get promotions, all of these things. Like
we're not going to agree on that. I've seen too many. I've seen too many of the opposite.
Your anecdotes just don't, like I said at the start.
I understand their anecdotes.
They don't matter to me. And you're in a position where I'm sure the people you surround yourself with are probably a lot of your wife's friends, probably a lot of your friends. It sounds like,
well, I'm retired, so
sure, but it sounds like to me that you're both like relatively well off in like a pretty nice area and like those sorts of things from how you're describing it. And so to me, it seems like the people you surround yourself with and the anecdotes that you are seeing in your day-to-day life are not the real average example of like a single mother, like having a child and then having to get back into the workforce. People you're seeing are not normal. They are above the average. And so they are not necessarily included in what I'm talking about. And so the anecdotes don't matter that much to me, because that's not what the statistics bear out.
So I just don't agree with the statistic, I guess. I'll have to look into it. Okay. It's a, I think that I don't know. I've never seen what you're talking about happen in the way that you're talking about it, and I've hired a lot of people, and I've fired a lot of people, and I've employed a lot of people um, that you would that I were probably middle class. Now I think about it, because I always thought of them that. I mean, I guess my idea of middle class may be different. Just
Sorry, can we summarize the argument just so that we
yeah,
know?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I'll summarize. I'll summarize real quick. I'll go on
Okay.
a 30-second or less diatribe about conservatives, and then
Sure.
I'll be done. So, summarize the argument. To go very back to the start, feminism is good, and good for not only just women but also men for a number of reasons. One, it helps the exact problems that he described, whereas women are seen as the nurturing ones, men are seen as like the strong caretaker, like money, like collectors that go and like support the family financially, or like they're the ones that are like the big strong guys. These are all notions that hurt men in places like divorce courts, which is one of the main problems that he talked about. Second, men suffering emotional damage in relationships based on the partner, like actions of their partner, like men being scared to speak up when their partner is emotionally abusive. This also gets solved by feminism when you are no longer the big, strong, controlling person in the relationship, as often is the case that you necessarily must be in traditional relationships where the man rules the household. That no longer is a notion under feminism, and it's accepted.
Sorry, I have to stop you right here. Can you define feminism, please?
Like pursuit of equal rights between men and women. Okay, done. Can I keep going?
So an egalitarian, you think feminism is about egalitarianism?
That depends on how you define egalitarianism, but
can you define it?
Sure. No, I don't want to define egalitarianism. That's not really what I'm talking about. But let me keep going. So those two things that you talked about as one being some of the like primary problems with feminism, I think feminism actually solves. So where we went from there is you saying, well, single fathers raise children better than single mothers, and the stats show that. What I said is, well, there's really, really easy things to point to in society that help explain this outside of just, well, men are better caretakers. The easy things that we can point to are women get discriminated against in the workforce because physically they are the ones that have to have the child, and the expectations that they are the ones that have to take care of the child after the child is born. So not only do they physically have to do the action of giving birth, but then they also have to often raise the child afterwards. And that is the expectation not only people in society put on women, but also the expectation that the government puts on women as well by only giving women time off from work and not men time off from work. So the government actually reinforces that standard that women are supposed to be the ones to take care of the children. This really, really hurts women in the workforce because A, they have to take multiple months off of their career if they actually want to effectively raise their child. And B, when they're trying to get back into the workforce afterward, or if they're trying to get a promotion, or if they're trying to get a raise, or all these things, they're often just going to be completely fucked because people don't want to hire people that they know aren't going to be giving their all to that job. If your difference between who you can hire in the competitive market is between like someone who just graduated college and someone who just had like 3 children, you're always going to pick the person who just graduated from college if you think that the rest of their sort of like standards or the rest of their education level is the same, because you know that that person is going to be more dedicated to that job than the single mother who just had children, is more distracted, all of these things. So they're going to miss out on promotions. They're going to miss out on raises. You agreed with all of these things by saying that, yes, this happens in the workforce all the time. And often they just use other excuses to get around it and not admit that this is why they're doing it. So yes, women are going to be more disadvantaged. This means that their child is also going to be more disadvantaged in the end, because they're going to make less money. They're going to be able to send them to less good schools. And the child themselves is going to have a worse upbringing. Quick diatribe about conservatives. It's really clear at the very end of this conversation where you're just like, well, I just don't agree with the stats. This is how every single conversation with conservatives end, when they don't like the position but are backed into a corner by just the facts of the matter in the country, where it disagrees with your position. The facts of the matter disagree with your position, but you don't want to agree that you are just wrong because it would go against everything you believe in like the nature of men versus women, even though everything points in the direction of you being incorrect, but you just can't admit it because you're on a stream with people watching you that agree with you and you don't want to admit it.
Okay, so as far as pregnancy, now you've been going for a while. Hold on.
I haven't said anything.
Pregnancy discrimination, pregnancy-related discrimination. So we've got EEOC enforces 3 federal laws that protect job applicants and employees. And if you're pregnant, you're actually very well protected in most states and federally. So your whole argument that
Again,
somebody might not be hired. That somebody might not be hired because they're pregnant. I mean, sorry, it's total bullshit. Even
Josie,
you have the
we've been over this.
case.
We already talked about this, Josie. We talked about this.
Yeah,
Of
hold
course,
on.
it's,
Yeah, I
of
don't
course
wanna
it's
go over
illegal.
it.
Of course, it's illegal. They use other excuses to not hire them. This has been well documented. We have talked about this. You just weren't listening. So yeah, we both agree it's illegal to discriminate based on you having children.
But you can't say that it's the majority of the cases.
They just tell you
That's
a different
where
reason.
we
They say the other
disagree.
person. They say the other person's more qualified. That's all they have to say. They don't have to say, "Oh, you had a child. I'm not going to hire you because of that." Obviously, they don't say that. They just pick any other reason to not hire someone and say that's the reason.
Again, that's why we got lawyers for that too.
Great. The single mother can afford a high-profile lawyer against McDonald's for not hiring her, for sure. Yep. W.
Okay, so I don't agree with your stats because I don't know what the source is, and I haven't bothered. I don't prepare. I'm not debating. I'm not going to give out stats. I'm arguing a point. I don't agree that your stats are correct, and if I gave you stats, you wouldn't agree they are correct. So that's a bullshit.
Well, you've tried to give me stats, but you didn't link any of them. I would read them if you linked them, but I asked you to, and you just didn't because you don't have them on you. You just you saw it one time.
I'm not gonna.
You saw it one time. You don't even know what the stats are, but you think you've read it one time, or a political commentator has told you those stats are a thing, and you believe that, and now you regurgitate them. You don't actually have the sources for these things because you can't link them to me even if I asked you to.
I wouldn't bother.
Right, because you don't have them because you don't even know what the stats are.
Because, again, I'm not debating. I'm saying this is the way I look at it. Now you can say, well, I've got this stat. Well, great. I'm happy for you. Great that you believe it that way. And your egalitarianism. I'm going to change focus here because I just don't have. I just don't have the.
You don't have the facts on your side.
Energy.
I agree. We can move
on.
No,
I don't know that you have the facts on your side. You are acting like
I told you I do. And you actually lied multiple times, and then I corrected you, and then you just moved on. Like about the $100,000 in California being like the poverty line, and all of your anecdotes that just weren't true and didn't bear out in facts. Like I
believe that when Josie looked it up, it was 80,000. So I don't.
Where did you consider low income?
I posted it in the private chat on StreamYard, but I was the low income. That wasn't poverty line. That was low income.
Let's see.
Correct. Yes. You can fact check anything I'm telling you. I mean, that's fine. I encourage you to. But
I don't. You know, this gets into that debating bullshit that I just don't like. I don't agree with arguing with numbers that can be manipulated. Based on how you
now you're doing the other conservative thing where you don't just like believe facts at all because you know they don't agree with your side. I'm telling you, just average statistics of just like this is the average income. Like how the fuck do you skew average income levels of single mothers versus single fathers? You can't because we just like measure those things. It's an objective metric that we can measure. And when it doesn't agree with you, you just say, oh, it can be skewed. And I don't know how it can be skewed, but it just is because it doesn't agree with my position.
Well, I used to deal with numbers, so I have a pretty good idea about how to make things turn out.
I'm sure you're more experienced in the Bureau of Labor Statistics that gathers these statistics. Yeah, I'm sure you're much better.
So let's see. Why is this giving me?
Anyway, if you don't want to do quote unquote debate stuff, which is just talk about the facts of a matter instead of just like talking about what we want the facts to say, then
I was really more interested in your opinion. My
opinion is informed by the facts. That's why I bring them up, right?
Yeah. So, I'm just kind of curious. Okay, just humor me here a minute.
Yep.
I see poverty level in California increased between 21 and 23. That's 39,000 on average. 39,000. Blah blah blah. That's Public Policy Institute, California. Let's see. Interesting stuff because when I lived in the Bay Area, my understanding is that you were considered below poverty level. Let's see here. Below like 110 grand was like considered like you could barely even buy. You couldn't do anything. But
so that would
my understanding can be wrong. I mean, it's been 8 years since I lived there, so I mean, I
would even be willing to give you that, like the thing Josie posted of just like making less than 80,000 is considered low income. But that's also one person household, not two person households where the standard is higher, right? Because you have to keep another person.
So California, according to the Department of Public Health in California, if you have one person in your household, the household I need to look up and see what they're calling MAGI. I don't know if that's gross or what. It's 64,000. If you have 3 people in your household, it's 109,800. If you have 4 people in your household, it's 132,500. Yeah, so that's probably kind of accurate. I don't know. That's the Department of Health, Public
That
Health,
sounds right to
California,
me.
State of California. Now that looks like this is from 21, so it hasn't been updated to 23 or 24 yet, but
It'll be just like slightly higher. It's not that different.
yeah, okay. So I mean, you again, I don't give a fuck what numbers you want to bring out, dude. There's somebody else that's going to show something else. That's why I hate talking numbers.
What would they
because
show
you'll
something
say
else?
One thing,
What would
and
they
I
show?
will say something else.
What
That's
would they
I
show?
don't like.
Wait, sorry. If you're telling me that the statistics of California's poverty rate is X number, and you show me that number that you just read to me, what else am I going to tell you? I can't pull up a different agency that says something different because it doesn't exist.
When I said that earlier, I was like, yeah, I kind of remember it being this. You're like, no, it's 39,000 and my number's right. And that's the
poverty
problem
level
I have with this stuff. Well, it's not right. I just looked it up. So it's a different study. That's the problem with this kind of bullshit.
Hold on.
I don't care. I just want your opinion. Now, I actually was going somewhere before I got off onto the number thing, which is, again, it's distracting to do that because I really want to talk about, I really want to understand perspective. I'm actually more interested in perspective and what you think than what you're trying to regurgitate from some study that you read somewhere, which is great. I mean, knowledge is good. I agree with what you said earlier about that. Knowledge is good. I'm not going to down you for that, but I just don't. And I'm again, don't perceive this as a personal attack. Everybody does this kind of thing is where they get all of these numbers. And then, well, your number's right. No, my number's right. No, my number's right. And your number's right. Whatever. Dude, fuck it. I just want to understand your perspective on things.
Yep.
Okay. So do you think, and you've answered my first question was, how do you think women are disadvantaged in the workforce? Okay. You answered that. And I can see some of it. I will not disagree with everything that you said. I think that I think the things that you're trying to accomplish are not necessarily the same things that feminists are trying to accomplish.
So, Grid, what's your question?
I'm getting there. Let me land the plane. I'll land the plane.
It'll just be 10 minutes.
I don't need a moderator, Joe. I appreciate it, but I don't need one. And now I lost my fucking train of thought again. Crap. I had her I just really wanted to get a perspective on. Okay, so. Are men and women the same, and should they be treated the same in the workforce?
Are they the same? No, obviously not.
Okay.
Should they be treated the same? We should try as best as we can to treat them the same outside of giving them paid time off for childbirth and things like that. Although we should also give men the same opportunities. So yeah, we should do our best to treat people as close to the same as we can. And we are not, by doing that, we are not making the claim that men and the women are the same. We are instead saying that no matter who you are, you get relatively equal benefits in the workforce and get treated similarly in the workforce. Yes.
So that's not a traditionally feminist perspective. That's actually more of a Christian perspective. All men are created equal in the eyes of God. I like that.
Okay. It's also a feminist perspective.
I've never heard a feminist say that. You're the first person that's claimed to be a feminist that has said what you just said.
Maybe the other feminists you talk to are not very intelligent.
Most feminists I've heard say man ain't shit. Not that they're equal.
Right.
So those are people who are socially feminist but not intellectually feminist.
I would say that you're an egalitarian, but whatever. Yep. I mean, you be whoever you are, man.
Because that's the same thing.
I don't think so.
So can I quickly just sure. reference one thing that you said?
Yeah, man. Anything you want, man. Anything you want.
So
I like you. You're good. I like you. You're cool.
The reason I'm liberal is because I look at the facts to determine what my positions are. The example that you used of 39,900 is the poverty line versus the those statistics you read about the different levels in California, both of those are correct. You just don't see why both are correct, because one is talking about the poverty line, one is talking about low income line. So both are true and both are correct. And the one you were talking about is more so, I think, in a specific city, right, where you're reading like San Francisco or something like that.
Actually, that was the State Board of Health, so that was the entire
Okay,
state.
Gotcha. So I think they were talking about low
basically
income
it was,
and not poverty line, right?
Yeah. It's poverty line based on, in a family, right? So
yeah,
you would be correct if you're talking about just the mom, but if you add in the entire family, that's where things start to get nebulous, and that's why I disliked it. You are correct. I mean, dude, I won't
why is it
argue with you.
nebulous? I think that's pretty clear that when you add more people, you need more money to support those people.
Correct. The problem is that you are correct and I am correct, but it's just a different point. It's just a different point on the scale, right? And that's why I dislike. I would rather talk about your perspective, your personal experience to some degree. I don't want to dive into your whole life, and I'm sure you don't want to share it. That's way more informative and real than someone regurgitating a bunch of numbers that they cherry pick somewhere to prove their point. Look.
So that's where you lose me. The cherry pick somewhere. I'm not cherry picking anything.
I understand that.
Poverty line.
I'm not talking about just you.
I understand. But you're talking
globally. People do that.
I understand. But you're talking. I don't care what other people. I understand, and I dislike that too, right? But you're talking to me. You're not talking to the person that you're describing.
Which is why to make a huge deal about. Hey, I mean, you are. I mean,
but you did. You did. Even to me, you're like, well, I don't like you like bring up the facts. I'd rather hear your personal perspective.
No.
And I was like, and then when I said,
it's not a question. I don't like you bringing up the facts. I don't want to sit here and have to argue minutia of me having to go back and say, well, you're kind of right, but here's the number because you called me a liar, and I said, well, I don't think I was lying. I'm pretty sure I read that, and then of course I go find it, and sure enough, that's what it was. But
Can you link it just out of curiosity, just so I can read it?
Yeah, I think I probably can. Let me see. Let me find it here.
But to be clear, like, I don't have personal experience on all of these things, and so for me,
and sometimes you can just say
to get an informed opinion on things that I don't necessarily have personal experience with, like having children. I don't have children. I look to what the average situation is and what the facts can tell us. And what the facts tell us is that women are discriminated against in the workforce, and that single mothers are much less well off for really reasonable factors that we can explain in society than single men would be. And I look at that. I look at the facts of the situation. I look at the logical reasons for why that's the case, and I arrive at my conclusion. I think that's pretty simple. And I don't need my own personal anecdotes to be like, well, I know single mothers who did pretty well. Like I know people who are divorced that did pretty well. And so like, for me, like I see that this is not a big issue. I'm not going to do that because that's meaningless. That does not matter. I also grew up in a situation where, I was like in a relatively more affluent area. So if I use my anecdotes to be like, well, I knew single mothers and kids that were raised in this area, and they all turned out really great. They all went to college. Like a lot of them are really successful now. They're working at like consulting firms. Like, this is not representative, and this would be just as meaningless as the anecdotes you're telling me. And so I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to bring up the statistics of what is the poverty rates. Are single mothers falling above or below those poverty rates or close to them? What does this mean? Does this mean that they are less well off or more well off? And that is what actually matters in a conversation about if you're trying to arrive at the truth of the matter, which is who is more or less advantaged in a situation where they have to raise a child. You have to look at the facts. You cannot just look at your own personal anecdotes.
Well, unfortunately, we're not all machines, and so we use our personal experiences to draw conclusions. So, unfortunately, and I prefer to understand why you've reached a conclusion other than someone saying, "Well, I read this statistic and
I explained it to you."
I now believe. You did. I'm just giving you. I'm not saying that you did that. I'm saying that this is the way that I prefer.
I agree as well. I want people, if they have an opinion, to be able to tell me how they arrived at that opinion. And if they're using stats to inform that opinion, I want them to be able to point them out and like at least let me see them. Because maybe I will be convinced in that direction if they have really good evidence that position is true. So my problem, so my little diatribe about my problem with what you did is that you read a lot of things that you were confident that were true. I asked for some of those things, and even if you tried, I don't think you could find those things. And so that's sort of part of my problem is I think you've heard a lot of these things.
What part of that did I make up that, or you think I made up?
I'd have to think back to the start of our conversation.
That's okay, man. I really don't care enough, so it's fine.
So, yeah, so like maybe I could think back and find one if you wanted, but like oftentimes, and maybe I fall prey to this sometimes too, is that I hear something from another source that I trust. I don't actually ever read the source itself, and I then go and regurgitate that thing that I heard from the source that I trust to say this is now something that I believe is true because it aligns with what I want to be true, and I heard someone that I trust say it is true, even though you haven't read the source yourself.
Right.
I think that's really bad.
Yeah, I do too. And I in general, that one of the reasons why I don't cite numbers is that, unless I personally read them. I say this all the time because in my career I had to be very, very accurate. And if I tell you I know something, you can take that to the bank. Like I can back that up. If I tell you I think something, I'm pretty confident in it. I could be wrong. If I tell you I don't really know, I don't fucking know, and I'm being honest about it.
Yep.
And so I believe that everybody should be like that. Not everybody is, and so if I say hey, this is what I know. It's what I know, and I will do the best I can to back that up. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I've been wrong many times before. It's not my first day on Earth, so I can be wrong. If I am wrong, then sure, great, awesome. I'll move forward. If I'm right,
but you see my problem with it's hard to get specifically conservatives. I don't want to lump you all, but this is a problem I run into a lot when talking to you all. Is oftentimes it's hard to get you to admit that you're wrong, even when you're backed into a corner of all of the facts disagree with you, all of the logic disagrees with you, and even still, you are unwilling to admit that you're wrong on something.
What is a fact?
Can we not do that?
What is a fact?
So I guess separate diatribe. A conservative will never be able to tell you what is and is not facts, because just like
I'm not a conservative, so what is a fact?
I don't care. Just like one of the dipshits that I see in chat that makes the same argument that you made. This any statistic can be warped in any way that you want. Like comment that I hear consistently from specifically conservatives all the time is so toxic and terrible to the pursuit of truth that you can just shoot hand wave away any argument that disagrees with you by just saying, well, there's always statistics that will agree and disagree with any point. And then you could just say that broad statement and then run away from any claim that has really solid evidence on the contrary to what you believe. So I think that idea that there is always going to be something on both sides of an issue that is statistically accurate and factual is really toxic, not true, by the way, and something that conservatives say just to run away from their incorrect positions.
So does that apply to your numbers as well? Because if our numbers aren't right, then what about yours?
What do you mean?
Because you were just saying that you're always going to have a source that is going to validate whatever you want the numbers to be. So how does that make your arguments valuable if you say you have the facts on your side? I ask what are the facts, you don't want to name them, then...
So what do you ask?
I ask you what is a fact. I asked you what is a fact, and you pretty much told me to F right off.
So if we want to go back to the scientific method that we all learned in elementary and middle school, a fact is something that you can test, collect data about, and verify over and over, and retest to get the same result, or at least a similar result.
Yeah, and you say that the ones that we would bring up would be invalid because we can just look and land on the one that validates our argument. So how does that not apply with you?
Right. So that's the argument I'm saying that conservatives make, that there can be facts for either side all the time, and they can always be warped to say what you want them to say. I'm saying that's bullshit. the facts will always land on one side or the other, unless it's like such a hotly contested thing where there's like studies on both sides that like credibly say opposite things. Then we just like don't actually know the answer. But for most of these things, they're relatively solved questions in that we know, for example, the statistics of poverty rates among single women that have children or single men that have children. Like these are not questions. We know the answers to these questions. And so saying that the facts can be distorted on either side for something like this is just not true. It is just lying to get yourself out of an uncomfortable situation.
But we can't even agree on what a fact is. You don't want to give me a definition, so what's the point?
I just did.
I actually like his definition. I did a lot with data acquisition and raw data.
Really, dude?
Yeah. The problem is that.
Have you taken a science class, Josie?
I dropped out of high school. I'm dumb. I'm a dumb woman, you see. Yeah, I did. I just asked what is the definition of a fact? Like if you're in terms of like debate, is it the studies that came from where? Who determines what the facts are in terms like if you're debating like a mock trial? What are valuable sources?
Yes, I don't want to see mean, but I did say this pretty explicitly, so I can repeat it if you want. But I don't know if you like actually didn't hear, or you're just like wanting me to say it again.
I probably didn't hear.
Okay, so fair. So what I said to your question about what a fact is something that we can collect data on, use the scientific method or whatever to verify that is true. And
we collect it on. Who's we?
And we can verify and test that is an accurate conclusion over and over. And third parties can do the same if they have the same access to data. You can.
Who is we?
Test it, and you. What are you talking about? Like anyone who has access to we? Anybody who has access to the data set.
So anyone could do a study.
I can go in and download the Bureau of Labor Statistics data set.
Let's move on. I actually have a question. I have a question that has nothing to do with any of this stuff that I'm just really curious about. Sure. And I don't know how old you are, but did they teach you in school that oil is a finite resources that came from dead dinosaurs or decaying biomass or whatever it was?
They did.
They did? Okay. Do you know where that theory came from?
I'm not sure. Do you want to tell me?
Yeah, I'll tell. I love this story. J.D. Rockefeller owned Standard Oil, and he wanted to sell it. But oil at that point in time was very cheap. It was actually really cheap. And so what he did is he paid a bunch of scientists to come up with a reason that oil could be limited, right? Like what is oil? And where do we get it? And how does it come there? And do all of this.
Prices, right?
Huh?
To generate artificial demand, to raise prices, right?
He did that exact thing. And he went to Paris. They had a summit in Paris. I think it was Paris. It could have been London. My memory's a little foggy on the location, but I wasn't there. So, and he made this statement to the world that oil came from dead dinosaurs, basically. All these scientists agreed. They came up with all these factual reasons, bismuth and heat and pressure, and they made all of these. And really, they were conjectures, right? There was no way to test these hypotheses, but nobody doubted them because they're the best scientists in the world, right? And so he sold Standard Oil for, I think it was $1 billion. And I think he was the world's first billionaire. Now, you'll have to fact check me on that because it's been a while since I looked at the whole numbers of it.
I'm happy to just believe you on that. I don't care.
Yeah. I mean, but he was the first billionaire. That's a real thing. And he did that specifically to create a demand, a false sense of value. And many things in our society are driven in the same way, and really, it really helps to just kind of follow the money and see who's benefiting. And J.D. Rockefeller and the guys the three guys that listen to the show routinely will have heard this before. Stop me if you have. J.D. Rockefeller was a pretty evil dude. Like, you got to kind of admire him. He was so evil, right? And one of the things that he did, which I think is just crazy, is he got together with his buddies, J.P. Morgan and Carnegie and the Vanderbilts and a couple other guys, and he had factories. They all had factories, and they needed employees. And and the problem was is that at that time, most people could make a really good living farming or being a tradesman of some kind, and they really didn't care anything about working in factories. And once the Civil War happened, indentured servants were not a thing. They couldn't bring people over from Ireland or Wales or the UK and force them to work off a debt. And so once that happened, they needed these employees to work in the coal mines and the factories and that sort of thing. And so what they did is it's very evil and at the same time very interesting, and it's the bedrock of a foundation of something that is to this day really bad. And that is they developed the educational system in the United States, the public education system, and they based it on the Prussian model, which and they literally went out and shopped. They cherry picked, and I love that term. I've used it a lot. You probably know by now. They literally went out and said, "Who trains the most obedient soldiers, and how do they do it?" And they went out and they used the Prussian model, and that's what our entire public school system to this day is based on, to generate not free thinkers, not people that are going to go out and excel, but people that are driven to have a job. And it's very interesting. I like history a lot, and I think it's really, really interesting. And when you talk about feminism and the patriarchy and all of this kind of thing, you can't really get away from these guys. In the early portion of of the industrial age, the robber barons. I mean, I think it's actually really cool. They called themselves robber barons. I mean, think about how baller you got to be able to walk around and call yourself robber barons, and the power that they wielded and the effects that they've had throughout society. It was only later in life that they really decided to get into philanthropy, and that was because they didn't want to leave a bad name behind. But it's really interesting, and I don't really know that you have any sort of feeling or anything on that, or any comments even. I just thought that you seem like a guy that utilizes knowledge, and I wanted to share that with you, because when we consider facts, when we consider things that are that we want to believe in any way, the number one thing we have to do is consider the data set. I lived most of my adult life by data, and I always had to consider the data set and whether the raw data that I was getting was accurate. And if it wasn't accurate, why wasn't it accurate, and what could possibly skew it? Now, I was dealing with a very specialized sort of thing, and in this case, we're dealing with various series of numbers that we don't know really how those numbers are gathered. We make some assumptions, but it's very hard for me to put a lot of faith in data that I don't understand how it was gathered, especially given how our society has been kind of set up to work. And I give you that bit of information because Josie's being a little bit disingenuous and a little bit whatever, asking you what a fact is. You know what a fact is. You're obviously an intelligent person. However, facts can be manipulated, and data is the easiest thing on the planet to manipulate. And until we're intellectually honest with ourselves and say that we have faith in data because we like that data, or it's been proven to such a finite point that the data cannot be questioned reasonably, until then, you have to maintain an open mind. And I do. And that's the thing. I will listen to anything you have to say. I don't necessarily agree with it out of hand, but I'll listen to it because you may have a data set that's better than my data set. And I will go and check, that. And I did not disagree with you until I said, what I did was I said, I don't necessarily believe what you're telling me. And that is that should never be taken, in my opinion, that should never be taken in the wrong way. If somebody doesn't believe what I'm telling them, great. Go find out for yourself. Don't believe me. I tell everyone, don't believe me. Go find out for yourself. Go educate yourself. And I could be wrong. I'm a human being. and that's one of the reasons that I really have a problem with kind of what Josie was asking you, and I had a little bit of a problem with the way that you were presenting things. Is, hey, these are the facts, rock solid, 100%, can't question them.
So
okay,
okay,
I will give you that.
So I'm going to put in. So I agree that if you have no idea and you cannot verify where the information comes from, then sure, you can be skeptical. If the difference is that you can easily find where the information comes from and how it's gathered, but you just don't because you're too lazy or you don't want to, or it's because it doesn't agree with you, then you're just full of shit. So when it comes to like the information gathering of like the statistics of how much money people make or who's in poverty or what the poverty rates are and how they're calculated and like all of these things that you can clearly look up how these are gathered, how they're calculated, what methods they use, what metrics they use. It's all very transparent. At that level, I don't care if someone doesn't know how these are gathered if they're not putting in the due diligence to figure out the publicly available information for how those things are gathered. That's just on them at that point for not doing their research into how those things are done. So in the same way that the example you gave of Rockefeller or whatever, like, all the scientists agreeing that, the oil is from fossils, aka fossil fuels. There's a reason why that hasn't been disproven. There's a reason why we still call them fossil fuels, because they are generally made from fossils. The oil comes from other, now dead, like past living beings that have been fossilized. And so these things can be verified. And the reason we learn them in school is because we understand how that happened. We know how it turned into oil, how fossil fuels get formed. We can verify those things with the scientific method over and over, and we have over and over.
No, we haven't. We actually took it as gospel until recently. That now they've finally come out and said that oil does not come from biomass under the crust. That's not what it comes from.
Do you want to link source you're mentioning?
I'm sorry?
Can you link whatever source you're mentioning that oil is not biomass?
Yeah, I'll try and find it again.
Because that sounds like a revolutionary new idea that I haven't heard of that I would love to see.
I don't think they teach it anymore because they quit saying dinosaurs. They started saying biomass, and then
it's not just dinosaurs. It's just like fossilized dead things in general, right?
Yeah, they were kind of they just keep walking it back. Let's see.
But like you agree that and like fossil doesn't necessarily mean dinosaur fossil. That's why you have the word dinosaur fossil and not just fossil to describe dinosaur fossils, right?
Yeah, that's they actually they are still saying that in the first internet search comes up that way. Let's see.
Yep.
But is thought to come blah blah blah. Yeah, I'll have to find it again. I actually looked that up a couple of years ago because I was very interested because an article came out that oil wells in the Ukraine or somewhere or not Ukraine. What's the other side of Russia? Siberia had actually come that were dry, tapped out, done, got everything it could out of them. Had actually kind of refilled, and that they were very puzzled by that, and then there was some science involved about how it may be not a self-renewing resource, but not as finite as we originally thought. So I'm not going to sit here and search for half an hour.
Yeah. So if you find it later, if you want to send it to Josie to pass on to me, that would be appreciated because I think this is not true. And I think I have not heard this, and I would have heard this. I followed a lot of like science, technology, etc. Sources, and this would be pretty revolutionary of our understanding of not only just the earth, but like energy and all of those things. So I think you're not correct, to say the least, on this. This is why we're able to verify over and over that these things are true, and why very quickly, especially nowadays, things that are just complete bullshit, we're able to point out as complete bullshit, especially in the field of science. If it's like very clearly wrong, because people can test that theory and see that it's wrong.
So from Wikipedia,
Okay.
The abiogenic petroleum origin hypothesis proposes that most of the Earth's petroleum and natural gas deposits were formed inorganically. Scientific evidence overwhelmingly supports a biogenic origin for most of the world's petroleum deposits. Mainstream theories about the formation of hydrocarbons on Earth point to an origin from the decomposition of long dead organisms, though the existence of hydrocarbons on extraterrestrial bodies like Saturn's moon, Titan, indicates that hydrocarbons are sometimes actually produced by inorganic means. Historical overview of those theories of the abiogenic origins of hydrocarbons have been published. Thomas Gold has a deep gas hypothesis. There's a bunch of stuff down there.
So I don't think any
so-
scientists disagree that it's impossible to form fossil fuels without dead beings. Like it's obvious, like obviously the chemical composition can theoretically be replicated elsewhere, but the fact is that a majority, if not an overwhelming majority of the fossil fuels that we have on Earth are formed in that way from decomposing like formerly alive material. Just because it has been formed that way and in an overwhelming majority is formed that way in on Earth doesn't mean it's impossible for it to be otherwise on other planets. These facts can coexist.
So I think it's Thomas Gold's 1999 book is he's got a bunch of the theories in there and a rebuttal of the biogenic origins. So that might be worth a read because obviously nobody's going to let go of a theory overnight. So yeah,
sure, and it
might be worth a read. I don't know.
So
you may not.
I mean, in the same way that you can that you claim that you can find facts that point to either direction of an argument, there will always be an author that disagrees with the majority consensus of any like accepted scientific issue. This is why, for example, there are a couple different quote unquote scientists who will tell you that climate change is not real, even though all of the evidence and 99% of scientists agree it is real. So there's always going to be a scientist who tries to publish something that often gets completely ridiculed and proven wrong by the rest of the scientific community, but people who want to be either like reactionary or take the opposite side of something will always point to that person and be like, well, someone agrees with me, so surely they're not all correct, which like, surely they're not all saying the same thing. But if an overwhelming majority are saying the same thing and they have tested it over and over and over, and you can go read the results of those tests and even test it yourself if you have the equipment to do so, clearly that person is not in the right.
So ironically, abiogenic hypothesis was the original hypothesis. And back in, looks like 16th century is what they're saying, which predates most of the biogenic hypothesis. And again, now they're calling it hypothesis. They're not calling them conclusions.
Yeah.
So
and what happened?
I don't know.
They ran tests. They used the scientific method. They realized that hypothesis was complete bullshit. That's what happened, right?
Well, actually, what they feel like they found were biogenic markers, and that's why they continue to say that oil is produced from biomass because it has biogenic markers. But new science, which happens all the time, seems to point to an abiogenic process being more likely. And yeah, so and I don't know. I can't tell you what the reason for the biogenic markers are. I mean, it could be anything.
They know much more about this than we do, and that's okay. And we should have people that specialize in these things that can be more informed and tell us what the general scientific consensus is. And unless you're alleging that there's some grand conspiracy among all of these kind of scientists that say we're all going to agree with each other, thousands of people across the entire planet. Nope, hold on, I'm done. That all these people across the entire planet are all going to agree that this is how we ought to think. Unless you're alleging that large conspiracy of fossil fuels being biogenically created versus abiogenically created, then it seems to me that if a majority of people who have expertise on this topic, who are unconnected to each other, are all saying the same thing, that the evidence points in this direction, I don't see a reason why we ought not trust them.
What I don't know that they're not connected to each other. We'll assume that they aren't, but I don't know that. What I will say is that would you not agree that keeping the idea that oil is a not a non-renewable resource that the Earth just doesn't happen to make from time to time through whatever process it makes it, would you not agree that that is something that most uh, large corporations, governments, consortiums would want to continue to foster? Would you not believe that if you just simply followed the money, that that
Nope.
anybody who said anything else would be branded a heretic?
Nope. The
Okay.
reason why is because we can test these things. Anyone with the proper equipment can go and test these things.
Sure.
So
And they are, and they're being. And you just said the fact that just because they found it, it doesn't matter.
What? What are
You just said, well, I just said that they're finding more and more that the biogenetic markers may not be as meaningful as they originally thought. They may not be from biomass. And you just said, well, if everybody thought that, that's what we would know. But you hadn't even heard the theory. Why? Because why would anybody tell you that?
So
right now, the status quo is that
if over time it becomes more accepted that the biogenic markers are not as important, and maybe it's not the case that all of this comes from biogenic material, and there's compelling evidence that convinces a lot of the people who have expertise in this field, not us, that this is the case, then maybe I'll start looking into that and being like, well, it seems like there's a tide shift in the information and what the experts think is true, and they know more than either of us know about this thing. And so if they're starting to be convinced, well, maybe I should start to be convinced too and look into it as well. Or maybe suddenly tomorrow there's a new study that comes out that's like groundbreaking and it undeniably proves that it's all abiogenic material. And now suddenly the entire scientific community is like, oh shit, we were wrong. And now 99% of them think that it was abiogenic instead of biogenic. I would be on their side too, because I don't care what it says. I care what the actual provable studies say that it says.
Okay.
Things that can be repeatable, to be clear. So just because there might be some global cabal of governments and businesses and whatever that say things are a certain way.
I don't know.
If it's unrepeatable, then I don't trust it. But if it's repeatable, which all of the scientific studies that I trust are, and the same is true with all of the scientific studies that most scientists trust, they're all repeatable. Outside third parties can run the exact same tests and come to the exact same conclusions. These are the things that I trust, and these are the things that scientists trust.
Interesting. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. One more topic I'll bring up, and then I'm going to go. What's your thoughts on lobbying in the United States?
Lobbying?
Yep.
Interesting. That's an interesting subject. Sore subject for me, actually, because I think that a couple of lobbying agencies that you would think that I would be affiliated with do a horrible job of it and sell the Constitution down the river quite often. Sure. So you would, I'm assuming, here, and you can say,
I'm very pro lobbying. I think lobbying is great. I think it's necessary. I think the level of corruption that most people assume, like the average person assumes, is in government via lobbying. There's way less corruption than people think there is in American government.
Interesting.
Yep.
So, are you familiar with a lobbyist group called the NRA?
Yes, I am, of course.
Okay. Do you know who Wayne LaPierre is?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Piece of shit.
Do you know why the NRA lost so many members the past 10 years? And further, do you understand why there was a split between the NRA and the NRA legal branch?
There's probably a few reasons. The leadership was really bad and not spending the money correctly. They're pretty ineffective at what they do. Frankly, a lot of the gun control groups are becoming more and more legislatively effective. Third, I would say they're becoming so polarized that when Republicans are in power, regardless of the NRA existing or not existing, they won't pass gun control legislation just because Republicans don't favor that. And when Democrats are in power, they hate the NRA so much that they don't have power over the Democrats either. So it's just they have no sway over the actual opinions of the two sides. It's just depending on who is in power, is the likelihood that you get gun control legislation or not. And so I think generally they're ineffective, more so nowadays. They spend their money badly. Their leadership sucks. There's been a lot of legal problems with especially the leadership and how they spend their money. So yeah,
Yeah.
they're just kind of,
Yeah,
kind of
that's mostly accurate. That's mostly accurate. The thing is that they became a they became an agency of compromise, and they compromise and they were literally they would tell their members one thing and do another, and they attempted to hide it. And anytime that any lobbyist
Can you give an
organization
example?
does that, they're gone. Sorry,
Can you example of when they did that?
Bump stocks.
Okay.
They did the Gun Control Act of 80.
Wasn't bump stocks an executive order?
88. It was, but prior to that, LaPierre came out and said that they would support that, which was not.
Wasn't it Trump
It
that
was completely wrong.
that banned them with executive order? I thought it was.
Well, I mean, there's a kind of an interesting sidebar about that, but yeah, I think he did. He did it in such a way that I'm assuming that he intended to provoke, which he kind of did, but it was just a delayed process. He intended to provoke a lawsuit, and it did happen. It is happening, and it is playing out exactly as it should have. It just took 5 freaking years, but pretty much every major legislation, the NRA sold its members down the river, and you can only do that so long. And now there's so many other organizations, GOA, RM, whatever. They're better organizations, and the NRA did a bunch of stupid things. They started out as not just a lobbyist group. That was just a part of their job. There was the legal defense team, which does a great job, and completely separate. And then they had the they did a lot of education. They did a lot of stuff. It was a really good organization that just lost sight of where they needed to be. And I'm not anti-lobbyist. I think that the controls on lobbyists right now are concerning. I think
Like
that
what?
The amount of money and the way it's tracked, I think, needs to be better. And because we can do it better. I would not have agreed with it probably in the 90s, because you just couldn't track the money that lobbyists gave to various people.
But you can now, right?
You can now. You can better, right? I mean, come on.
I mean, you can. Period.
Unless
you're talking about like super PACs, but like either way, that's not really lobbying. That's more just like huge industries, like just like dumping.
Yeah, super PACs probably need to go away too. But I mean, once the cat's out of the bag, you're not. Once you've released the lightning, you're not putting it back in. So.
Sure, but for lobbyist money, either lobbyists individually giving their personal money or like PAC money to a candidate. All of that can be tracked. All of that is public information. You can look it up right now if you wanted to, who received what money from where. It's an education issue that people just like don't know that you can do that. So I don't think any of this is corrupt. I think people pretend that it is because they just don't know that you can just go look it up right now. Let's see who your member of Congress takes money from. These are not corrupt things. These are just this is just how it works. It's just how the sausage is made.
Interesting. So when Trump talks about having donated money to Hillary's previous campaign, kind of under the table, that the fact that didn't show up on her campaign anywhere, that's not troubling.
Trump said that he donated money to Hillary's campaign?
Yeah, that was a big contention during the first election. I'm shocked that you didn't pull that right out of your hat. That he actually donated to both Bill and Hillary. Now, Bill was obviously I'm sure that was tracked, but he donated to Hillary's Secretary of State, I'm assuming, campaign. And when he was asked about it,
what do you mean Secretary of State? Like for
or not Secretary of State? What was the position she held? She was Secretary of
Senate? She was a senator from New York.
She was a senator from New York. I thought she held a secretarial position in New York as well.
She was Secretary of State.
Was Secretary of State
of the United States.
Yeah, I think I thought that she did something. I thought she had another job before senator in New York, but I could be wrong. I don't
know. She was like First Lady of Arkansas or whatever. Like I don't know. Like, that's not an elected position.
Yeah, it's not an elected position. No, I thought that's how she qualified to be senator in New York, was that she had I don't know. It doesn't matter. Whatever. I could be thinking of another politician too. It's been a while. And I don't care enough. It's pretty irrelevant to my life. But in 2019 during the campaign, or pardon me, no, 2015 during the campaign, Trump was asked about that donation to Hillary specifically. Now that he was running against her, and he said, "Yeah, of course I did. Of course I gave her money. Right? That absolutely I did. It's just doing business, right?" And I thought that was interesting. So, whatever. I'm shocked that you didn't know that he gave them.
Donald Trump donated $100,000 to the Clinton Foundation, which is, I don't understand. What's the problem with this?
Oh, there wasn't really a problem per se. I just asked you how you felt about it. I also think that I thought there was some under the table money too.
It's also not even their political organization. That like the Clinton Foundation is just like their charitable organization.
Right.
So like if Trump wants to give what year was this? I'm looking. 2009, the Trump Foundation gave $926,000 to some organizations. The Clinton Foundation received one of the largest gifts. So in 2009, they gave $100,000 to the Clinton Foundation. So that was when Bill was not president. I don't even know, when was Hillary president?
Hillary wasn't president.
Or sorry, not president. I mean senator. My bad.
Right. I mean, the point is that he did give it to them, and when he was asked about it during his run, he very simply said it was part of doing business. That's how things get done. So
yeah, she was Secretary of State from 2009 to 2013. She stopped being a senator in 2009. So it sounds like he gave the money in between after she was a senator and before she was the Secretary of State. So even this actually points to a lack of corruption, because it was when she resigned her previous government position and before she went to her next government position. So even this is actually like even less corrupt than I expected it to be.
Than you expected it to be?
Yeah, and I already expect there to be very low levels of corruption. Even this is much less corrupt.
Well, this is what you can find on the internet, right? So, I mean, you're not going to... I don't know.
The only thing you can't find on the internet that does not legally have to be disclosed is super PAC. Not even super PAC, is 501c4 contributions, which are to like issue advocacy groups that can take an infinite amount of money without having to disclose their donors. Super PACs do disclose their donors as well. So it's only these groups that don't disclose their donors. And those are the only groups that I would say are not very good.
Interesting.
Yep. I think lobbying is good. I think our government only functions because of lobbyists being able to point to specific policy issues and potential outcomes. The people that work in government, understandably, especially like on the Hill and the White House and all that, understandably can't be specialists on everything, because that is an impossible ask. And the way that we see what the problems are and what the potential solutions are is we hear from lobbyists on both sides. And that's the only way that we can arrive on solutions to a lot of things, is by hearing from people that are specializing in those things. If we limit ourselves from doing that, we will have very, very ineffective policy.
Interesting.
And also to the person in the chat, that is not true. You can see how it's getting spent as well. You can see the money that gets raised, and you can see the disbursements on how it's spent. These are both reports filed by the FEC. You legally have to report both of these things. So yes, you can absolutely see how it is raised and how it is spent. Legally, you have to.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So, and if you misreport that, they will get on your ass quickly. If the numbers don't line up, if they find some discrepancy, you will get fined either an immense amount of money, or you will simply just go to prison.
Yeah. Well, that brings up an interesting point. What do you think about the Fannie Willis thing down in Georgia admitting to taking cash from her campaign contributions and using it to pay her bills?
I honestly don't know enough about that to give you an informed opinion.
It's been like all over the news for a week. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, my guess would be she reimbursed herself or something like that with her campaign contributions. I don't know what the Georgia state law is, which is probably different than the federal law.
Well, it's a felony. I mean, she admitted to a felony under oath, so that was
sure. Then she should not have done that. And the reason why they caught that is because they do audits of people's campaign contributions.
They didn't catch it. Didn't catch it.
So they obviously did, because she's getting caught for it and like charged with it right now.
She admitted to it under oath because of the.
Why did they ask?
Why did they ask? Because she had gone on trips. So, interesting. I would think you would be. This is seems like a subject you'd be really all over. But okay.
I don't know here's much about the Georgia Fannie Willis. It's just not that interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting now. I wasn't paying that much attention to it either, but it got interesting because as they were connecting the dots, the prosecutor for the case has never tried a criminal case, which seems odd. And then it came out when people started questioning why is this person who's actually not a member of the prosecutor's office, why is he doing this? It comes out that he was in fact her boyfriend for a while, the DA's, and in fact, they went on multiple trips out of the country together and all kinds of romantic tryst and all of that, which nobody had a problem with. The problem was
they paid for it with campaign funds.
They paid for it with campaign funds.
Great, then they should be punished then.
Yeah, they did it, and she tried to hide it in cash, but of course, when you take the cash out and you don't put the cash back in, and you don't give a receipt for the cash,
correct. It's very easy to see. And when they do audits of your campaign filings, if they see that you that you raised this money, you spent this amount of money, and then your cash on hand is like not lining up with the amount you raised versus spent, they will very, very, very easily figure that out, because it's very simple math.
Yeah, I guess they had no reason to look into it until she drew attention to herself. But there's a lot of red flags there. One of the things that I personally like to do is I prefer to watch the actual court footage. For Senate, for law stuff, or congressional things, I prefer to watch the actual congressional hearings, because I don't want a news source to distort that, right? I don't want someone telling me what they think I need to hear and what somebody else needs to hear.
Good.
I'm sorry?
I said, yeah, that's good. I do too.
I think that most people should do that. I think that the press in this country's gone really wacky on both sides. I mean, on all sides, even the people who claim to be in the middle moderate.
I would agree. The one side is way, way, way worse, and it's not close. But I would agree that it's generally not good on either side. Fox News is an outlier in how fucking awful they are about lying about stuff, about their opinion hosts being just way outside of the norm of the average of what the American people want to hear, or what the actual facts of the matter are. That's why they got sued and settled for hundreds of millions of dollars from what was the voting company, whatever it's called, because Dominion, because they knew they were actively lying. They knew they were just like not telling the truth, to millions of people. So they are an outlier. That's only really happened to them. They're, like, you know, CNN, MSNBC, like they're obviously more partisan, but they're not just like blatantly lying about like.
Well, I mean,
like
CNN's been
crazy
caught
shit.
lying. I mean, let's not beat that horse. I mean, CNN's been caught lying
to
many
a
times.
degree where they get sued for hundreds of millions of dollars for damaging a business.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've been sued. I don't know that. I know, you know, they don't disclose what they lose, right? And I'm actually really, I think it was an interesting. The Fox thing was very interesting because typically none of that would have been public knowledge. It should, you know, there's some reason that happened the way it did, and I don't really know. I've heard a bunch of different opinions, and it's very interesting, especially in light of the fact that Dominion, was it Vermont or Virginia? I think it was Vermont, where they had the Dominion machines that were hacked, and they were proven to have been to do exactly what was claimed. And then, of course,
I straight up do not believe you until you link something that proves
okay,
this.
all right, come on.
Because these are the types of things that, especially the election fraud shit, where people just like rattle off a number of different things that they've heard with zero proof on those things that they've heard. And it's far more work to disprove each thing one by one than to just like rattle off a number of things, be like, well, even if one of these are true, then my point stands, right? Like it's harder to disprove a conspiracy theory than to create one. And so that's why I'm not going to believe you on literally any of the election fraud stuff until you provide me facts to.
So it was I want to say it was Vermont. I'm really trying. Somebody will remember who it was. But so the way it happened is, and I'm just going to go over the bigger picture, right? I'm not going to try and delve into any real small details, but basically there were 3 people in the race. There was, I think, 2 men and a woman, and the which I don't think that's relevant. I'm just giving that as information. To differentiate, one of them received something like 22% of the vote. The other one received something like 32% of the vote, and the remainder received like 7% or something like that. It was below the threshold to where she could force a runoff or whatever. And so what they did is she was able to she was actually had actually decided to accept the results until she checked the voting records for her home county, and it showed that she had gotten no votes, but she knew that her and her husband and I guess her parents had voted for her. So it should have been at least 4 votes, and she had zero
Okay.
in her district.
Again, as I said, I'm not going to believe anything you say until you link something that shows that the story is like real.
I just can't remember what state it is.
Like regardless, I mean, in Vermont, it doesn't mean anything. But also, yeah. I don't believe you until you link something. But also, I just don't really want to go down the rabbit hole of like all of these different election stories. That commits me to like a 2+ hour conversation that I'm not going to have to debunk all of these things. So yeah, I'm not going to go down that route. Mm-hmm. I've done it too many times. It takes too much time. It's just like not worth doing. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm trying to find it for you. But at any rate, when they hand counted, it changed the whole deal. Okay. And she actually was put on the ballot. So
awesome. Glad she was put on the ballot. Good for her.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, I mean, I just, the problem is I don't know if I could remember the exact state. I thought it was Vermont. It's not coming up in Vermont. Let's see. I'm trying to find it. It was just in the news.
Yeah, like this is you realize this kind of proves my my very, very earlier problem that I have, which is you heard something somewhere. You're now restating it as something.
No, I didn't hear it. Dude,
okay,
didn't hear it. I followed the story.
Okay,
I literally followed the story.
And now you just like don't really know exactly what the story was, where it happened.
Yeah,
like this is kind of the problem. Is like now we have data filtered through many different sources or layers, and then we regurgitate it as something that is like definitely true, and then even within 30 seconds you changed even what state like the story even happened, which matters a lot. So like, I don't know, like especially with these election fraud stories where like people just like pick and choose random ass like examples. Like I've heard like 50 different fucking claims of just like random shit that happened that I had to dig into each individual one and disprove them with just like these absolute conspiracy nuts. It's just not worth it. Like I will hand wave away these people, say they're all mentally insane, because most of them are. They want to find something that agrees with them. Until you can get something approved in a court that looks at all the evidence and has a system for this, I will just blatantly not agree with you or not care, because this is why we have courts, to prove these things. And so if that case you're talking about wasn't in a court, or there was no lawsuit or anything where they showed that there was a problem, then I don't care, because it's impossible to prove all of these claims.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that was a great speech, but you were literally trying to discount my case because you're saying that, oh, I heard something or whatever. No, I read it and I'm trying to find it for you. I'm not sitting here twiddling my thumbs. I don't remember if I could remember the exact state.
So my problem isn't that you're trying to find it. I appreciate you're trying to find it. My problem is that you made the claim confidently without even knowing all of the facts behind what you were saying.
Well, I remember the facts. I'm just trying to figure out which state.
So that's one of the facts you didn't remember. And I guarantee you, if we go and find it, that a couple of the things you told me won't exactly line up with the actual story.
Sure.
I'm almost 100% sure that will be the case.
Let's see. So let's see.
And the more small things we distort and change and whatever to line up with our part of the story, even if a majority of things are still true, if we change a couple things here and there that we just like don't remember, or that we think are true but aren't proven, that's when we get into really shaky territory of, okay, now I'm just not going to believe anything you say if you're willing to just like lie about very specific pieces of maybe a broader true story, but lie about certain aspects of it to fit your narrative. That's when I just like stop caring and like stop believing anything you say. So this like it damages someone's credibility as a giver of facts and knowledge if you're not willing to just like have all of the information before you confidently make a claim.
I'm trying to find it. It's I for some reason I thought it was in Vermont. I feel like it was just I want to say it was for like a state senate or something like that, but it's nothing's coming up in Vermont. I don't know why I thought it was Vermont, but it just seems like back of my head it's supposed to be Vermont. But let me see.
You want to look up the other V states? Virginia, maybe?
Yeah, it could be Virginia. That's let's see. Yeah, it was. I'm surprised. Let's see. Election. The problem is that you can't just use Virginia election recount, because all it's going to bring up is Trump stuff, and unfortunately that does me no good. I'm looking for a very specific targeted thing, and I don't want to search through 20 pages of stuff, so let's see, what is this? This is
and I don't want to be that guy that just like that like dunks on you while you're trying to find evidence, but the fact that it is so hard to find the evidence you are talking about, it reveals to me that this is not a very important story, frankly. If it is so hard to find any examples of this happening, or the evidence of the big story that you said happened when this would be published everywhere, if what you were saying was true,
it was pretty
believe,
public, but you understand how our news cycle works, right?
I do understand, but the internet stories don't disappear. So you would be able to find it pretty easily if it was as big of a deal as I think you're making it, which makes me believe that either this is not true, or it's less big of a deal as you are making it out to be. And maybe it still happened, but it was not as you described it.
Sure.
So that's, I mean, happy to be wrong, but usually this is how this happens. Is I point out that some details don't make sense. They start looking it up. They change their mind on some things, and then it turns out that the story, maybe even if the story was true, it wasn't nearly the degree of severity as the person described it to be.
Wait. And there's a lot of recounts now, dude. It is crazy.
Yeah, because people who want to bitch and moan about losing the election can pay for a recount. They have every right to do so, and then they go and do that.
I mean,
the results are the same, and then they just spend money for no reason. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean a lot. I mean, unfortunately, I don't think you're right about that. I mean, Virginia, the one that I just looked up was Kim Taylor, and she won the recount because that was correct. That there was something going on. Listen, what is this? And I really wish I could remember the district that that this was in. I just it wasn't Georgia. I don't think it was Georgia because Georgia has so much going on. I would remember
Yeah, Georgia's a fan favorite of the election conspiracies for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would remember if it had been Georgia, but it was just. I don't think it was. It was somewhere where I didn't expect it, like Vermont or New Mexico or New Hampshire, something like that. And it wasn't. It wasn't that the actual election. It wasn't the actual election. It was just in their state primary. Let's see. Maybe that's the state primary. Recount. I guess that's actually very popular too. Jesus, what's going on with these people? Well, now I'm getting all the laws.
All right, hate to leave you while you're looking for evidence, but
yeah, it's all right. I don't really care.
Yeah,
it's just an interesting data point that that they had that happen where one person didn't get basically any votes, and then when it was recounted, she actually made it into the election. I don't know if she won though. I don't remember. I think I kind of quit following it. I don't think she won, but that doesn't matter. The fact is, she made it to the show.
Yeah, good for her.
Yeah. Where is this, man? I cannot believe there's so much. There's so many recounts, man. Crazy. All right, let's see. That's another good search parameter to use to narrow the field. Three-way voter.
Okay, I'm gonna go.
Yeah, sure, man.
Glad you're actually looking for evidence for these things.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know it existed, but whatever. I'm surprised Josie hasn't popped back in, or has she? And I'm just ignoring her.
No, I don't know. If you find that though, you can send it to Josie and ask her to send it to me. I would like to see where that happened and if it was as big a deal as you said it was. But
sure,
cool. Appreciate talking to you. I'm gonna go.
Yeah,
but have a good night.
All right. Yeah, have a good night.
All right, bye.
All right, now I get to talk to myself. All right. Really perturbs me I can't find this. And now I don't have anyone to talk to. What did I learn? I didn't actually learn anything. You know, yeah, I don't know that I learned anything. You know what I learned? I learned that if you call in the question stats and just say that you don't believe it, that people lose their fucking mind. So I really hate debates, man. Really hate them. You know, AB, stats are really easy to manipulate, and I don't know if I was the only one that felt this way, but he kind of did that destiny thing of, oh yeah, you don't know because you can't prove it. I'm like, dude, I didn't. I told you in the beginning I wasn't going to prepare for this, and you know, oh, you don't remember this. Well, yeah, I don't remember all the details of every news article I ever wrote, and I certainly don't take notes. Um, so yeah, it's weird. Weird that he thinks I care. Yeah, AB, that's right, man. I would rather just have a conversation and get your personal opinion. He wants to like prove that he is more well researched than I am. No, right guy, he's not sharp. He's dumb as a fucking box of rocks. He's just well researched. Once you pushed him outside his research, he all he did was get pissed off. If you just said, "Hey, this is what the new thing shows," no, no, I can't believe that. I'll have to read it. That's not sharp. Sharp is being sharp. Well researched is totally different, which is why I dislike the debate style. The lag, the lag kills me. Josie, get back in here and let's land this plane. That's right, AB. You just can't. The thing is that once you push them a little bit outside their zone, their knowledge, they call foul. And he did it every single time. I said, "What do you know about this?" Well, he doesn't know, right? And every time I said, "Well, this is something that I know about." Well, you got to prove it, right? But that's bullshit. Don't that's a bad way to do things. And he's like, "Well, every time if somebody tells me something, then if I don't know, I got to fact check it or whatever." So I should have just told him to go fact check his shit, but I didn't. Yeah, listen, here's the thing. Yeah, no, I mean, I'll give him props for jumping in random last minute. Um, but you know, you could literally hear him typing like a madman to come up with things to dispute me while I'm sitting here just talking, right? And I actually don't I didn't believe his stats, and he was actually wrong because he said household, and it wasn't household; it was individual on the thing. So um, that's right. I don't know who the Gatoria. Who is that? Who are you? Do I know you? Yeah, that's a really good point, Rye Guy. He did want to do that. He wanted to slash and burn. And that's a very cool, dude. Good seeing you, man. Rye Guy, that's exactly the technique that they use. And I like it. I mean, I'm not saying that I dislike it. I'm saying that overall, I just it's boring. Like I was getting bored because he's sitting here reciting stats that I have to take at face value. And then when I did go look them up, he wasn't always exactly correct. And he was very disingenuous about when I would call him on that. Well, this isn't really what it is. But we're saying the same thing. But we're not saying the same thing. I said this and you said that and this is and you made me go look and you called me a liar, so I had to go look. And then, that's why I don't like this. I don't like that crap. I want to have a conversation. I want to have a conversation with people. I don't, the debate thing just pisses me off. It really annoys me. And I can tell the Destiny people because they either have notepads or in his case, he had his laptop and all he wants, they're just like burn through things. You can literally, I think he literally said once, "Oh, I'm going to slow down. I'm trying to write this down." I'm like, what the hell? Let's see. What are we time stamping, Natalia? He did, in fact, call AC a dipshit. No, I mean, he made some good points, Bill. I mean, he did. He made some good points that if he's going to, he made some good points for his sort of what he is trying to portray feminism as, but we all know that that's bullshit. And I tried to call him on it a couple of times, but I was trying to, do you think I was too gentle on that? I'm kind of hang on, I need what's up, dude? You missed out, man. It would have put you to sleep though, honestly. It was not my style, but I appreciate him showing up. So let's see. All right, sorry guys, I had to. I don't know that I really interrupted him that much. I wanted to. Cool. Jess, so here's the thing. I don't like debaters. I don't want to be a debater. I would rather just have the conversation, and I'm going to treat them all exactly the way I treated him. I will listen to them. I will be polite-ish, and I will berate them to some degree for being a debater and not just having a conversation. I told him 4 times, I just want to have a conversation, dude. I just want to hear what you think about this. And every single time he defaulted back to, you could hear the keys clicking. Every time he would default back to asking for some proof of something I'm just having a conversation about. But he's pretty good. He's not completely retarded. He's a good guy. Yeah. And that dude is not a feminist. Come on. Who really thinks that guy's a feminist? Josie, do you really think that guy's a feminist? Josie?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Josie, do you really? Wow, your mic is like ridiculously. Hang on, I got to turn you down.
Maybe it's me.
Yeah, you're screaming at me.
Yeah.
Josie, do you think that guy is a feminist?
I'm not even sure what a feminist is at this point. I would say people may self-identify as a feminist, but it usually always depends. It always means something different to everyone who claims to be a feminist. So I don't really consider anyone to be a feminist because there's no really clear definition.
Yeah, he was definitely egalitarian, though.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. So, the thing is, I was just telling everybody, I really prefer just to have a discussion and try and figure out where you stand on issues and have an actual conversation, than to hear somebody just recite stats back to me, right?
hey,
Like,
look, I can give you the message I sent. I said it's a discussion, not a debate. It was written white on bluish purple.
yeah, no, I get it. I get it. No, well, I mean, the weird thing is every time I'd say something, you could just hear the keys clicking away. Like he's got to research everything I'm doing. It's very funny.
Or maybe
Um,
multitasking.
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there's nothing
Hey, look,
wrong with
he
that.
was fun. Yeah, look, he was relatively polite. He did call me a liar, and I proved him wrong. And he should have backed off after that. The thing is that the arrogant and the mistake that he's making is he left out on the note of, because I can't remember the exact city or whatever, that they had an election issue with. He's like, well, I just can't believe anything you say if you can't prove it out, if you can't give me an article or something. Well, the thing is that he had already said that once, and I proved that I was right. Like I literally proved that he was wrong, and that I was right when after he called me a liar. And after that, you really, as a human, you should probably back up and um, just say, okay, you know what? If you say something, I'm going to believe you. But yeah, it's fine. It,
But
it just came off as
he didn't want to give it to you because that's what leftists do. I mean, not even
yeah.
leftists, somebody who is like sure of their argument. That's usually what
It's an
they do.
arrogance.
They're not gonna give it to you. It's like they're gonna keep arguing until they have the final words. That's usually what you're getting into. It's like if
Hmm.
I didn't say come here to learn, I said more
Yeah,
here to have a discussion, looking for a feminist.
yeah,
If anything,
yeah,
if anything wants to, anybody wants to defend their liberal slash progressive slash feminist beliefs, anyone wants to jump on, it's more a debate. It's more a discussion, not a debate. Anyone, please message me. And I
yeah,
had like 4 people hitting me up like within 30 seconds. I was like, oh, cool. At least
yeah,
they're up for it. That was like super quick.
yeah.
I like
That was
posted
cool.
the message. I was like, boom, boom, boom. I'm like,
I
based.
think your camera is frozen.
Yeah, shit camera. Hold on.
I the chat's gonna the chat's like Josie doing Anthony Hopkins impersonation. So, but
What's
no, it was
that?
fun tonight. It was fun. It was really fun. Before I go on, you
Glad it
know,
was fun for you guys.
I mean, it was fun for me because this is the kind of thing that I expect from most people who don't want to have a discussion. They want to have a debate where they just throw a bunch of facts out. You throw a bunch of facts out. They deny your facts. You deny their facts, and then there's nothing accomplished, right? Like there's no
Yeah, and
there's no movement
I
forward.
was trying to connect those bridges and you fucking turned on me.
I did
Making
not
me
turn
look
on
like
you.
the fucking idiot in
I
the
didn't
room.
turn on you. I just don't the where you were going with the facts thing. It was just he was never going to accept that. He was already starting. I honestly thought he was going to quit. I
You
thought
know,
that when you
the reason
he
why he
just said that
started
like
to
three
go, like
times.
the reason why people like that go, are we really gonna argue? Are you really gonna ask me that? Like, are you stupid? It's like, no, I'm legit asking you that. What's wrong with that? It's usually
I
because
didn't want him to quit.
they know which direction we're heading. Where I was
I
gonna
did.
head is, remember how everything on the CDC was like facts before a certain event happened?
I know what you were gonna say, and I didn't. Well, you notice I didn't go
You
anywhere
call me
near.
disingenuous.
He did. He called me a liar, though.
No, you call me disingenuous, sir.
Did I? I
Yeah,
might have. Well,
I
I don't.
don't
I think.
appreciate that.
I'm sorry, Josie. I think the thing is though is that it just wasn't the way that you were presenting it. He was never going to buy. I thought he was going to quit. I didn't want him to quit. I'm sorry, Josie, but I thought he was going to quit because he was getting mad. It was weird that he didn't want to show his face. Right? Is that weird? I feel
Some
like
people
that's
just
weird.
don't like that. It's fine. I respect that. Is my camera still lagging?
You're frozen.
Fucking hell.
You haven't moved in 5 minutes.
Stupid shit. That's my 2 megapixel piece of shit.
And we're back to you being frozen. It's the same picture.
Stupid crap.
Oh, this is so good. This is so good to end on. This is so good.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Sorry, I
Just
gotta
put the
eat this week.
just put the frozen picture back up. It's fine. It's like a frozen dinner. Frozen
Yeah, that's
Josie.
probably what I'm gonna be eating this week too.
Yeah. All right.
Don't make me look. Don't fucking go in your own fucking net. Don't do that again, man.
Okay. They only want to debate to feel like they are right over someone else. AC,
That's the whole point, though. It's like you don't
I
agree.
I think that's yeah.
I would have invited somebody from the whatever server if we wanted to just have a calm discussion.
Yeah. Well, no, I like the discussion. The discussion was good. I thought, he was
It's just
he
that
got a
if you start to dig deep into the arguments, like let's say two people want to absolutely be right and prove that their opinion is right, is like you're going to come across like stuff like that into a discussion, and if we get to that point, you need to go with the facts, which I know
Mhm.
which route he was taking because that's the route that I learned doing mock trials, which is why
Yeah.
he was like, well, you can't really do facts because you're going to be able to find data that proves that you're right, and we're just going to argue with that. And so I said, okay, so what makes your argument valid then? Because you said you have the facts on your side, but you said that it doesn't matter because you can find something that validates it regardless. So what's up with that? What's a fact? What's a fact? And so I think there's this thing
He was never
disingenuous
gonna
with asking what a fact is like. And then he asked
well,
me if I did you ever have a science class, Josie?
oh, that was
Fuck
mean.
off.
He should not have said that. That was mean.
It's like,
He
no, I don't know. I'm fucking dumb. Like, fuck
you
you.
I don't think he was expecting that.
But
I
you
honestly don't think he
opened the
was.
door for that. I would have
Yeah.
done the same shit.
He was never going to do anything but keep repeating that a fact is something that's been tested and proven to be right
The
most of the
data that
time.
we collected. Okay, the we. Who's that?
It was really funny when I got him on the oil thing though, because
I got
I'm
bored and
like,
everybody got bored. Sorry.
that's all right. He he I was like, well, you can go read it, and he's like, yeah, I'm not gonna.
I mean, if at least like you want to
Basically,
have
he didn't say that
discussions,
exactly.
if you want to have discussions, like if you do it with the stuff that you already know, the data that is not just a casual
Oh, he was
discussion. I mean,
fact checking the hell out of me on that Rockefeller thing. When I was telling him the Rockefeller story, I was really distracted by the sound of his keys clacking.
you could have asked
Um,
him to just. I think you have the power to switch that. It's on your end.
yeah, yeah.
The
I
noise
think that
cancellation.
yeah, he I don't know. He was all right. At least when he was wrong, he almost admitted he was wrong. So, you know, the
He
thing
was pretty
about the
composed.
thing about the the thing about the bullshit with the poverty level, and he kept moving that goalpost.
It was arguing semantics. It wasn't moving the goalpost.
It was just
Because
like,
I made that mistake of saying poverty line instead of
poverty level.
is that in California you're considered poor if you make under 80,000, but it's not necessarily the below poverty line, like for being eligible
Well,
for all the
he
you're
did that
super
with
fucking
you.
poor package.
He did that with you, but the other thing he did was he kept saying that women would lose time in their job, and therefore they wouldn't be able to get as good a job again. And I'm like, that's crazy. You just admitted that that middle class won't be a problem. All
But you
right.
brought personal
Well,
anecdote to debate that, and that was kind of a mistake.
yeah, but the thing is that it was nonsense. I'm like, you can't try and tell me, you can't tell me in one sentence that the majority of people, of these women, are poor or living in poverty. That's what he said, in poverty. If they're already working middle class, or not middle age, low income jobs, like, or minimum wage jobs to begin with. And he said, well, no, we're talking about middle class now. And I'm like, well, hold on. Middle class isn't poverty level. Like you said, in poverty. If they're middle class, that's not poverty. And he just kept moving the goalpost backwards and forwards, and then he denied that he was doing. He could have just said, "Yeah, I'm kind of doing that because, they could be middle class and then become and move into poverty." But he could have said that, but he didn't. He just said that, middle class women would get pregnant and be have a hard time getting a job again, which is, I think, total horseshit. I don't
And
think that can be proven.
what I brought up was that no, there's actually federal laws against that are in place, and you said,
And he
well,
admitted that.
it's easy to go around it, and what I was gonna say is, so where are you getting your facts to be able to say that? And that's, I don't know what he would have said to that, but
Yeah, no,
and
he
you
had an.
threw me under the bus again when you did that.
I did not. He hedged himself by saying that. Well, he admitted that happens. I'm like, yeah, I know
But
that
who
I've
says
watched that
that?
happen.
If he believes facts, what's the
I,
where is he
I've
taking that from?
I
Personal
admitted that I've
anecdotes?
seen it happen, but then he told me not to have my anecdotal evidence, and I'm like, well, you
Exactly,
can't
and
say
he brought up the anecdotal evidence, and I was about to like
again.
cook him on that, and you didn't let me.
Well, he would have quit. I didn't want him to quit.
He wasn't gonna quit.
Well, so yeah, AB check. He did. He wanted to argue the intent, not the law. So he continuously moved back and forth between goalposts.
And you were getting emotional, by the way.
Well, I intended to, because I wanted him to stop talking about the nonsense, right? Like I needed to get him to stop and reset, and there was no way he was going to do that. He was locked in. I guarantee you, he had a clipboard sitting there, and he was just doing like Aaron does. And so the only way you get those people to stop is by, putting up such a wall that they then have to stop and break through it, but they can't go back to the clipboard. And I just change the subject, or try. And he always
Just
brought it back to kind of the same thing. He thought he was going to get me with the lobbyist thing, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not really a fan of lobbyists. And he's like, oh, I think lobbyists are great. And I'm like, yeah, sure you would. Why would you not?
should have
But
just personal anecdote again. I thought we didn't care about that.
again, yeah. So I mean, he's um, he wanted to debate, and I was like, I want to have a discussion. So, and that's about what I expected from somebody from Destiny server, because that's how
Yeah, I
Destiny.
said it's somebody from Destiny. I didn't
I
screen
know.
him. I just found him. I said, "Are you okay with it?" He said, "Send him." I'm like,
Hey,
"Okay."
hey, it's totally cool. It worked out. We gotta get you gotta get something for a camera or something. We're gonna have to figure something out, because that's crazy. it not working fairly consistently. But I'm
Oh
gonna
no,
go to
earlier
bed.
that's because my boyfriend was in the back, so I
Yeah,
just
that's
didn't
right.
want to.
Totally cool, guys. I'm gonna call it. It's the end of the night. I'm going to bed. I had other stuff to talk about. We'll get into it. What will I do? Say probably Monday. I'll probably do one Monday. I'm gonna take the weekend off. You guys, no more for me. No mas
No
until
mas.
Monday. Probably Monday. We'll probably do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday again. We'll see. Monday it might not be a live. It may be a pre-recorded, but I'll probably go live. I like going live. I prefer it. It's
You
easy to
should
talk
live
to everybody.
stream when you're flying. That'd be dope.
You can't do that, Joe. We've already had this discussion. You
You're
can't
right.
do
You're
that.
right. But you
You
could
can't.
pre-film it.
Well, I could film it, but I don't really want to get distracted
Gotcha.
while I'm flying because that's how people die.
Yeah,
And
gotcha.
all right, AC, we'll see you next stream. Hey, I mean, I really appreciate you doing that clip for me. You'll see that next stream as part of the intro. It looks like I've pretty much got the start of it nailed down. I was a little bit boring the first probably 10 or 15 minutes just because I was kind of waiting on Josie and the dude from Destiny stream to come on, and it was good. It's good, and the guy will probably figure he'll come back and dunk on me, but now that I know all of his talking points, we'll roast him.
Oh, he's chill with you. Like I just spoke to him.
Yeah, what do you have to say?
I just talked to him. He was like super chill. He's like, "Oh yeah, that was fun. We do that anytime again." I was like,
Okay,
"No,
cool.
no, he's chill with you."
I
Like
like
it's
roasting. No, I won't roast him. And you know what? He was cool. He was cool, and
he
other than
wasn't
the fact that
emotional enough for you to roast him. That's what I was saying. You kind of look like the emotional one when you raise your voice, and the emotional one is like it shows that you're getting tilted or that you don't know your arguments usually. It's like
yeah,
that's why they say don't try to raise your voice, and even Andrew Wilson said it multiple times too.
yeah, it was
I
okay.
give up on that only when I have a migraine.
I don't do that. I was actually annoyed that I kept saying I don't want to debate. I just want to have a conversation with you, and he kept making a debate. So I was annoyed. I was in fact annoyed. Like that was like I don't want to do that. Yeah, he was cool. It was I like it. It was a good time. All right, well,
Yeah.
good night everybody. Josie,
All
good
right.
night.
Good night.
It was fun again. We'll try and start on time next time, and we'll talk to everybody later. See you. Go away. Leave me alone.
Bye.